7:20. Meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll do that a couple more times.
All right, so I'll take a motion to open the public hearing. So moved, I think by Carol, seconded by Barbara. All right, all those in favor, Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses, we are open. And is there any way, can we get this monitor on as well? And I know Dan had asked a couple of months ago for us to shift the TVs around. We've really got to get that done for the next meeting.
Yeah, I know I've mentioned it to Corey to get the wall.
Yeah, get one over there, so those people.
Right, and one's closer so us old people can see it.
I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with it. On that, I'll take those pictures down.
Someplace to another wall. Yeah, let me do something. All right, so the first secret ballot article is article number 3. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate from taxation $1,138 for the sexual assault crisis and support center? 2022's actual was $1,116. 2023 request is $1,138. Are there any questions or any discussion on Article 3? Seeing none, moving on to Article 4. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate from taxation $60,000 for lake protection to be dispersed in the amounts indicated to the following organizations and from the following funding sources? Belgrade Lakes Association, 2022 actual was $16,000. The 2023 request is $24,000. Friends of Messalonsky, Belgrade Stream Milfoil Removal, 2022 actual was $13,100. 2023 request is $19,650. Seven Lakes Alliance, which courtesy boat inspection youth conservation corps, 2022 actual was $8,400 and 2023 request is $12,600. McGraw Salmon Lake Association, courtesy boat inspections and youth conservation corps and the porta potties. 2022 actual is $2,500. And 2023 request is $3,750. 2022 actual was $40,000 and the 2023 request is $60,000. Funding from non-property tax sources, Water Quality Improvement Fund. We used $20,000 of that last year. 2023 request was none out of the Water Quality Improvement Fund because the account has dwindled. Funding from property taxes in 2022 actual was $20,000 and 2023's request is $60,000. Are there any questions on Article 4? Jack?
Yes, I'm on the budget committee and I voted no on this article. I voted no and I felt it necessary to come down tonight and explain why I voted no. Number one, I think the milfoil program is very important to the town of Belgrade. I would gladly have voted for the same amount of last year with a reasonable increase. But $60,000 presented as a secret ballot article on the take it or leave it basis didn't fly with me. It didn't fly because the town is faced with a number of pressing issues. Number one is keeping up with inflation, which requires extraordinary increases for a number of town personnel. It is faced with a remediation program for salt contaminated water. It's faced with the budget implications of a new fire station in Belgrade Lake Village. It's faced with additional personnel, and this article is a 50% increase over last year is a major amount. $60,000 is a 50% increase over last year. And it's an increase of 300% over the impact on Belgrade taxpayers. Because last year, the budget impact was $20,000 on taxpayers, 20 out of reserves. This year, it's all out of the taxpayer money. So it's 3 times the impact on the taxpayers. Those are the reasons I voted for no. And I say again, I think the milfoil program is very important. I'm sorry to see it presented on a take or leave it basis. I would rather see it be presented as a number, as a regular article, for the general town meeting, to be debated at the general town meeting, because I'm sure on a reasonable basis it would fly. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. We appreciate your perspective. Does anyone else have anything on Article 4? Penny?
Will this involve more employment?
So, Penny, when you say more employment, what do you mean by that?
Hiring more people?
So, no. So a portion of the funds that are requested would support the Youth Conservation Corps program. And by the way, Laura Rothe, who's our CEO and president, is here as well. So a portion of those funds would support the Youth Conservation Corps program, which, as you probably know, is a program that hires high school and college age students in order to work on erosion control projects throughout the watershed. And so you also are aware that the cost of labor increases on an annual basis. And so the minimum wage in Maine increases on an annual basis. And so part of the reason for the increase is to cover those increasing costs that we face on an annual basis, not only for the Youth Conservation Corps, but also for our courtesy boat inspectors who inspect boats and other marine equipment as they are entering and leaving the lakes to ensure that there are no fragments of invasive plants on them.
Well, this says courtesy board inspection is the youth conservation.
No, that is both of them. So it's funding the CBI program, the courtesy boat inspection program, plus a portion of the Youth Conservation program as well.
Youth conservation for isn't the people that do the boat.
They're 2 separate programs. So Youth Conservation Corps works on erosion control by building erosion control projects on private property in order to help protect water quality. The courtesy boat inspection program seeks to prevent milfoil from spreading by.
I thought they were both one and the same.
No, ma'am, they're different.
And Jack, I'm not good at hearing, so did I understand you to say that you were for the first 2 items, but that you voted no because of the other 2?
I'm for the program overall, particularly the milfoil remediation.
Are you,
Then this where the bulk of the money is.
the milfoil? Is that what you're objecting to?
I'm objecting to the $60,000 versus $40,000 last year.
Okay. Where would you
And I'm
go?
objecting to the secret ballot process, which is all or nothing.
Okay, but what would you lower it to? Would you keep it at 40?
Not necessarily. I might go to 40, I might go to $50,000.
Okay.
Well, I think if you look at the impact on taxpayers, it's $60,000 versus $20,000. And I think the town is going to be faced with an only one vote at the end of the town meeting to accept a higher overall budget by a certain amount from last year. And that's fine if the town approves that. If it doesn't approve it, it's got to go back to the entire budget and go over the budget, either as a continuation of that meeting or as a special town meeting. And it will throw the town into disarray.
Yeah. Thank you.
I don't know if this item is subject to reduction in that process or not. I'm not a lawyer, I don't know.
So unfortunately, Jack, because it's a secret ballot item,
Yeah,
it can't be reduced on the floor of town meeting, and as the petition was presented, that's how it has to be put on the warrant. So we did, I did pose at the last meeting, if folks wanted to move secret ballot items to the floor of town meeting. But then there would only be electing select board chairs, select board members, so it'd be a very skinny ballot for Friday. So that's why the determination was made to keep the referendum items together that were put in by petition.
But if it's presenting an article, whatever that article is on a lower monthly basis, is a danger.
I agree. That's one of the pitfalls of that process. So does anyone else have anything on Article 4? Oh, sorry, I did just want to, there's one person on who is there, there's no name there, it just has iPhone. And is it possible for you to identify yourself, please? Okay. Can we, if there's no identification, can we?
As long as they're not, it doesn't matter. Speak.
All right, because we usually keep the meeting minutes with who's participating. So if we have Zoom participants, then they should be identifying themselves in some way.
Up to you. No chair.
All I have written down is iPhone,
Yeah.
because I have. no
So I
idea.
guess whoever it is who's meeting via Zoom, who has just iPhone, if you're not willing to identify yourself, then I'm gonna ask that the town manager remove you. Okay?
No, it's still,
Still there?
it just moved.
Someone else
Somebody has
dropped off.
Okay. So Lorna, can you remove iPhone, please? And thank you. If they'd like to come back with an identifier, that's fine with me. All right, moving on to Article number 5. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate from taxation $1,488 to help fund spectrum generations for Belgrade residents?
Before you got sidetracked with that,
Oh, sorry, Laura, had your hand up. Sorry about that. No, back it up.
I just wanted to add that, while I and totally respect the comments, that, Mr. Sutton is making here. One thing that we haven't talked about is how much, value, the services, under this item bring to the taxpayer directly. And, we can talk about preventing future costs, and those are significant, but, there's no question that the taxpayer benefits, and will reduce future costs for milfoil remover. I mean, in south of Maine, there are towns that are listening to costs of things like buying milfoil harvesters because their waters are so cold for plants. And we all know that the detriment to property values, we also support the tax base, is really significant if we don't stay ahead of the problem. We're not asking for collectively a big increase. If you look at, we're really trying to stay even in terms of the cost of this program, as Anthony pointed out. So, you know, I think that in the paperwork that we submitted to you with the request, we presented a lot of numbers that I think are persuasive, and we'll of course be talking with taxpayers about those reasons, but there are two sides to this equation. One is the immediate process concerns. I think if there were money in the fund, and that maybe this question wouldn't be before us, and we would hate to see that procedural issue keep the taxpayers of Belgrade from investing in something that returns tremendous value to the taxpayer. Thank you.
welcome. That's the hardest part of this too, is that we can't explain that. In the articles, we can't say, there's only X number of dollars in the water quality improvement fund, so this is why we didn't use that as part of this equation this year.
Understood.
So it is, but that's why we do public hearings and try to educate folks as best we can. All right, so if we're okay there, we're gonna move on to Article 5. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate from taxation $1,488 to help fund Spectrum Generations for Belgrade residents? 2022 actual is $1,488. 2023 request is $1,488. And I apologize because I've not been following down with the recommendations. The select board recommendations on that were 3, 4, and 1 against. Budget committee recommendations were 3, 4, and 2 absent. Are there any questions on Article 5? All right, seeing none. Moving along. Lindsay, I think you can bounce.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We appreciate your participation.
Absolutely.
All right, Article number 6, shall the town vote to raise and appropriate from taxation $1,500 to help fund hospice volunteers in the Waterville area? 2022 actual is $1,500, 2023 request is $1,500. Select board recommendations were 4, 4, 0 no, 0 absent. Budget committee recommendations 3, 4, no was 0, and absent was 0. I think no should have been 2. All right, are there any questions on Article 6? All right, seeing none, moving along to Article 7. Shall the town approve an update to the town cemetery ordinance, which was last amended in 2022? Select board recommendation is 4, there were no no's and no absences. Are there any questions on Article 7? Penny?
You have people on what it is, what the recommendations are. The amendment.
So. The copy that's in our books, Lorna, is that the most current copy that had the changes?
That's one that I'll give her one.
Does anyone else want to see it? You want to take a minute to Penny to go through it to see if you have any questions?
And definitely go over it. I'll pass.
It's really tightening up the language, and
Increasing costs.
increasing costs, changing fees, getting us more in line with other towns. Apparently, we're a cool place to bury people, so.
Thank you. But it changes.
Little ones, it's kind of, as more people look at it and review it and, All right, so if there are no questions on articles number 7, I will take a motion to close the public hearing.
So,
Seconded by Barbara, seconded by Carol. All those in favor, Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
yes,
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. I will take a motion to open the select board meeting.
so moved.
Moved by Carol, seconded by Barbara. All those in favor, Dan?
Yes.
Carol? Yes. Barbara? All right, 4 yeses, we're open for business. Thank you guys for coming. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, so the first portion of the meeting is to review and approve the meeting minutes of the January 17, 2023 meeting. I'll take a motion to open that item.
Second,
And seconded. Okay, it's open for discussion.
I have nothing.
I didn't remember from your town manager report from last time about a hole in the skid or gas tank. I see it noted here and I saw something here, but I was like, I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, you talked about that.
I vaguely remember something about that.
I was like, was that on that one? So I was. I think that's all that I had.
It's the old skidder, right?
Okay.
It was the old skidder.
Oh, skid steer.
Skid steer.
All right, if there's no question or concerns, I make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes of the January 17, 2023 meeting.
Second that.
Second.
All right, seconded, thirded. All those in favor?
Whatever.
You're what?
I'm not gonna afford that.
You're not gonna afford it? All right, all those in favor, Barbara?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
All right, 4 yes, those minutes are approved. Okay, John Hall.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome. So, and apparently, I think we owe you a little bit of an apology, I believe.
You do.
Was your application kind of held back a little bit for some unseen? I think the town clerk said, I was going through and I realized that this person had put an application in and we'd had an opening.
Oh.
And she was like, and I felt so bad she hadn't moved you forward. So we appreciate the fact that you're still willing to serve.
Sure, I think it was probably because the application that I did.
Didn't have the
Had been
new
updated, maybe a little check mark now, so that took a little time.
couch back a little bit. Well, this is John Hall and he is applying to sit on the budget committee. Can you tell us a little bit about why you'd like to work for the town of Belgrade as a volunteer?
Well, we've, first, my background out of college was in accounting. So the budget committee seems like a reasonably good fit. We moved into town about 6 years ago. I'm from away. I grew up in Wayne,
Close. Not too far.
not too far away, I'd say far away. And so I'd like to be a little more involved. And that just seemed to be like a good place to do it.
Yeah.
Still working, I'm not retired yet, so I don't want to be too involved. But I would like to be more involved in the community. And that, as a pastor, I have known people who moved into town. They lived in town for 20 years and nobody knew who they were. And I think that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, I've told the story before. My first town meeting was in 2005, where I was actually on the board. And when I moved to town, I didn't know, I knew 5 people. And after my first several terms on the board, when I was getting ready to take a hiatus, I remember looking out across the room and realizing that I probably didn't know maybe 3 to 5 people in the room.
Oh, okay.
So, and you know, it comes with the territory and it is nice to make those connections with folks that you may not see on a regular basis, but then you see them and you know them and you get to know their stories. So we appreciate you wanting to be part of that. Does anyone have any questions for John? All right, seeing none, I'll make a motion that we approve John Hall for the
Second.
position on the budget committee. Moved and seconded. There's no further discussion. Dan?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. Welcome aboard.
Yeah.
You're coming in at the right time. This is now the slow season.
Yeah.
The budget,
Yes.
Your work is done.
I'm sure that after the inflation we've had over the last 2 or 3 years, their work is probably not easy.
No, that's definitely,
It's a busy one.
It's been challenging.
Right. Okay, so am I free to go now?
you are free to go. And what will happen is you'll want to come in and see the town clerk and she will swear you in.
Okay,
Okay,
all right. Thank you. I
Perfect.
appreciate it.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good night, John. All right, old business, 2023 town meeting warrant. So RSU 18 is giving an estimate of their anticipated budget. So this calculation, this calculation is before what we would be adding at town meeting, correct? So essentially with just the RSU increase, it would move our mill rate from what, 15.38 to 16.2?
16, well, if you look at the calculation sheet, it's 16.6.
Calculation sheet.
Looks like that.
Back
It's
under
one-
town manager stuff, wasn't it? That was-
No, I gave it to you tonight. It's right with your, yeah,
Be right here in the same second.
I gave it to you with, it was the
Oh, is it
flip,
right there?
the little flip bundle
That should be in the back of that.
that had the LD, the one we were looking at earlier on.
Yes, this one over here.
Yeah, so
So
there
we're
could be a
not-
mill rate and LD one, which is 2 pages, the worksheet.
Right. I know, I'm
And then
seeing it.
you're updated the full one. So if you look at that, and this is estimated.
Back and forth.
So it says 2022 municipal tax rate calculation at the top. It's just one page, it's got all the little boxes and it was on the desk, Carol. It was
Oh, down
on
the
your
desk?
desk.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, mine was in the book. So.
I have, there's one in the book, it's just.
Because
not
I
in that
had your
spot.
book, so I
Okay,
could put it in there. I didn't have anybody else's.
How much is the district projecting or estimating?
One in the book.
3 to 3.5%.
Here it is. Okay, it's in this one. Okay. Like I know it, not there.
Okay, so are you saying that according to this tax rate calculation, that our mill rate currently is 16?
No, this is the sheet
Projected,
where,
this is projected.
yeah, this is just a draft estimate.
Okay,
You won't know until you do the tax commitment. And we don't have the 2023 form, they don't have that out yet, I checked. So we're just grabbing the form so we can
Yeah,
plug
we won't
numbers
know
in.
until school board budget vote, too, whether it passes.
Right.
right, but what my question was, is that this 16.2 is before what we do with our own budget. So if the school budget passes with their anticipated budget increase of 3 to 3.5%.
Because if everything passes, is our warrant to get into this, warrant
Yes, the 1660,
includes everything.
yes,
Includes the school budget as well.
yes. The minute I got that information, Nick and I were to see how that changed it.
So we didn't have the previous one. Oh, wait, that's in the back of the book, right? Hang on, I tried to find it.
There's something in here. Mine is under public hearing. I'm seeing this page. In the back of the book, the one that was in the book.
Mine's behind the town manager report.
What's under my public hearing tab?
Okay, so the last question on the tax levy limit needs to be reviewed by the board. So I went back to 2019, which was the last time that we had to vote to increase. We had to have that article. And the way that one read was to see if the town would vote to increase the property tax levy limit. And this year it'd be 1944,675. Established by Belgrade. For Belgrade by state law in the event the municipal budget approved under the preceding articles will result in a tax commitment that is greater than the property tax levy limit.
I don't ever remember the school budget.
School budget
It doesn't have anything to do
No.
with that.
Yeah, school budget has nothing to do with the
Has no-
Right, that was for me trying to figure it out. So if we approve something and we're gonna be a mill rate and a half above. And then we're hit with another whole mill rate increase with the school budget. Then that would put us at 18 and something.
No, you're looking at a mill rate of 1660.
That's all included.
That's including.
That's
us.
including. The
Include
anticipated
non-budget
school
and
budget.
the school budget.
That's including our budget and the school budget.
Yes.
Yes.
So is everyone, I guess on this part, let's just see, is everyone okay with leaving the article the way it's worded currently, which is reflective of how it was worded in 2019?
The levy limit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Lorna had presented us with two.
Yeah, you
Well,
can do it.
one has the amount, the dollar amount, the other one doesn't.
Right.
That's the big difference.
And if you look on that, mill rate, the mill rate calculation sheet, Melanie, look at line 10. That's that increased amount.
So
That's the anticipated.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Because they're on a July 1 to June 30 fiscal year,
Right,
so.
right.
For the first 6 months, we're paying what we paid last year, and then it will increase for the second half of the year.
Mhm.
So you don't see the full impact this year,
Right.
right?
Right, yeah.
So you leave our article worded the way it used to be, because this number means absolutely nothing. Really, that number doesn't exist.
2019, though, Dan, that number was plugged in. So, and that's how we've always done it. We've always said, this is the property tax and levy limit. You would have your permission to exceed.
I see how you can put the school budget in, because I mean, they voted on it.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
they were just telling what the limit is with the article. It doesn't matter, I mean, if you want to keep the number in there, that's fine, but. We just know we can't exceed that number, so. When we get done with all the articles and stuff, what are we at right now? For the town budget, what's the bottom line number right now?
If you look at the municipal appropriation, line 8 on that tax rate calculation form gives you 45,79,603. So that's your municipal budget, and then you're reducing it. The deductions 12 and 13.
So where's the number I'm looking for that shows whether we're above or below that?
If you look at the LD worksheet, that's the 2-page worksheet. Look at page 2 on line 15.
Okay, so right now it's showing we're only at 66,823.
We're over, right, we're over 66,823.
66,000.
Yes.
See, and that's the thing that is not making any sense to me, because at our last meeting, we were still 339,000 or something. over.
Well, we did cut a bunch of it, and I don't know if we cut that much, but we cut.
No, didn't we?
We
cut
have
those up?
fire department
Fire-
employees and cleaning in the budget, and there was some other things that made up a big chunk.
Yeah, there was something else. that
But we
was
moved
numbered wrong.
cleaning to another line item for an employee, so that one doesn't actually reduce it. We
Well,
just moved.
Yeah,
the money
because it was
into
double budgeted.
Yeah,
It was
it
budgeted for the
was a both
employee, and it was
spots
budgeted for the for the
Right,
contract.
it was double budget.
until we decided which way we were gonna go.
So
Okay,
it's
so that's 80 for the fire department. And then roughly, I'm rounding up, it was 78 and change or something, and then
30 something for, I think it's 30. quote me on it, I think it's 38.
Does it help in our minutes?
No, I don't think so.
Because we did, you did all of those.
We moved
And
some
I'm
stuff
thinking-
from.
I'm thinking there was some number that was wrong that
I don't remember.
that
No, we
either
didn't.
you or Nick realized was wrong and that got corrected.
We took
And that made a
10,000 from undesignated, I think that was the transfer station.
Yeah, I was thinking we were at 240 something and then we took out 160, which would get us in that ballpark.
Well, I know we originally had some numbers in there for full-time code enforcement, and we cut some of that.
Right.
We weren't gonna go full-time on that.
And that was going from 40 to 60, wasn't it, one full-time?
I was thinking we cut somewhere on a couple hundred anyway, or somewhere in that area, I thought.
Yeah,
I don't know, it'll be quite that high. I figured code enforcement, even if we went high on that, and put 35, that's 125.
I was showing 125 with just.
was on
just
that
the
one,
fire
did we have,
department and
did
the
we
cleaning.
have? There's something that was in both places. That was the cleaning that was in both places. They had to take the cleaning out of each individual department
Yes.
too,
Yes.
which made a difference. Because it was sort of reflecting double. So,
So maybe 140, so if we take 339 minus 140, we're still not at this number.
And this was a estimate only, you're not going to know. You're not going to know the real number until you get ready to do the tax commitment. This just gives you an idea.
Right, but this is what we have to go by to
Yeah,
justify.
we have to have that.
We have to have that number, yeah.
You have to go by that number. So we need a fairly firm number. So we have to, well, either to exceed or not to exceed.
Oh, the tax levy, yeah, I was thinking you were talking about the mill rate.
We just need that.
We did a lot of the changes the meeting before.
Yeah.
Well, no, I
There's so many
didn't-
numbers that I don't have all.
I don't,
Well, I guess what I would like to see is I would like to see every article totals with what is our bottom line? And how did it change from the last meeting's bottom line totals? I've been bringing my giant stacks with me, but I just want to make sure that this number is accurate because I don't see in my head how it can be compared to what we were at the last meeting and the meeting prior to that. Because according to the meeting prior to that, we were just eliminated over $400,000 from the budget. From the first one, we had 400 and something thousand, which is what I had talked to our assessors about. And there's no way we didn't take anything big out of there.
Well, 100,000 was, on the farm sand contract, not the farm sand contract, but on the sand salt shed, sand salt. I know that was $100,000 change, that's one of the ones I can remember. I just can't remember them all, but that was 100,000, we started the budget with 200,000 and
right,
we got 100 on that,
there's 100,000 right there.
yeah.
yeah,
And
the
of
fire
course,
department piece
The
was a
fire
big
department
piece.
pieces, that were different. I want to say, but the cleaning service, the contracted part is either 38,000 or 48,000. I guess, I don't have anything in front of me.
I think it was the 30 something.
Yeah, I want to say it was 38,000. But I know that for sure the sand salt was 100,000.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I don't have the paperwork here.
I don't know about, I do remember that now. We were sitting here talking and thinking numbers.
If it was, that was 100,000, that brings it down around 250, well, 250. What we account for.
And then 10,000 on the transfer station when we took out of the
Well, and then we did buy the equipment out of, for facilities. Didn't that also
Last year.
cut, because that was in to buy this year? We bought,
Yeah, that was one of the cuts, but I'm not sure which time that was.
yeah, I was gonna say, that was another what, 45 between the,
Yeah, 45, 50,000.
that we pulled out of. We flipped,
So we did a lot of that, not the last meeting,
yeah,
3 weeks ago, but we did it
So many meetings.
a
have
couple
done
of
so much
meetings
of that.
before that.
yeah,
Well, with the cuts that we did 2 meetings ago, we only had it down to 300. I think it was 339,000. We were still exceeding.
It was, yes, it was 300 and something. I'm looking to see if because I sent that out to you via email.
There's a budget committee books on top of file cabinet and mail on our own.
Yes, well, but they may not be right on top, they might be over underneath the mailbox area on the right.
So if it's 63,000, almost 64,000, and last year was 66, does that mean we don't need to have this
No, right
No,
now
we
it's
still-
66,000 or whatever it is over.
over?
we're over.
We still need to cut that much to not have to vote. to go for one.
Has that traditionally been an issue?
Well, very rarely do we ever go over the one.
Yeah.
Like I said, I said last time that we had almost, what, 2013 or something like
I
that.
don't have any glasses, but you got yours out. That's what it was. The budget meeting.
339,000 is what we were over.
Yeah.
One in the last worksheet.
Right, which is why I don't understand how we're at 60 something now. It just doesn't appear that we
Yeah, well, that was the one when we started, that was the amount we were over when we started,
the meeting.
before we started cutting.
So
So
take
it's all
100.
dependent on how much we cut.
Look at that sheet, Bruce. On.
I want you to look at that.
Oh, okay, so we were at 4739, 214. And after your last meeting, we were at 4579, 604. Yes, I didn't put anything. $159, 610. That's what you cut.
That's how much we cut, or how much we were down to after we cut.
That's what you cut. 159, 610.
So we still should be 170, 180.
180.
So where did the rest of that go?
You've got more in deductions. 2907, 365, and previously you only had 2794, 539. So you reduced 13A. You reduced 13A and you increased 13B.
What date is on that sheet that I gave you, Lauren?
There's not a date.
This is another one.
Yeah, that's 419, even higher. Higher.
That's the two sheets I have.
419, so that was the first one, right?
That's good.
That's 110 was the date on on the top of it.
So you increased deductions 112,826. That totals 272,436.
This is double. The 17. 17. So anyway, so somehow we didn't figure out, we went from 339, 259 on the 17th to 66,823 on the 19th. It needs to go what we got.
Should be able to take care of what the final articles was and add that up, correct? Nick should have a copy of the final articles as the select board and the budget committee voted, correct? What the numbers are?
I have a articles and description spreadsheet.
Yes, they should be able to add up the overall number on that and come up
Right.
with.
I'll print that.
So it should be the difference between the one before it,
Which I have one before, right? Yeah.
and that has the total on it.
Yeah, the one before had us at 419.42.
Yeah.
And the second one was 339.
Well, that's. Well, that's the one before the one before.
Forgot I had to have the key to get in.
You got it? I say, no, I got one.
Oh, yeah. I'm reading.
On 110, it was the 419.
Right.
On 117. It was 339. And now it's 66. Either something wasn't added up right before, or something not added up right this.
Yeah. One or the other. Maybe maybe something that Nick may have to get an answer to very well.
Well, and the tax assessor was the one who helped with the numbers, and the numbers changed. So the numbers changed between the first one and the second one, because the second one, the tax assessor
So-
fill in the numbers.
So can I throw something in there with the proposed factor evaluation? Does that make a difference on the levy? Is that why it could be only 66,000 now?
I thought we weren't gonna take that into
Well,
consideration.
she did say the deductions changed, so. If you have a large deduction, and that's gonna reduce that,
Right.
reduce it down.
And that's it, the tax assessor's one that makes that, does that.
It could be.
That
He could have come back and changed the numbers.
Yeah, for the factor. I don't know if Mary would know that, and no,
Well, I think Lorna's been doing that.
but yeah, if it's got factor evaluation, that would make probably a big difference on what they, huge difference, actually.
But I love that with the price of everything else. So I didn't read that.
But we're not the only town.
Oh.
Reedfield is the one too. And actually, Reedfield mill rate looks like they're gonna be, even with the factor value, they're gonna be around 19.
The road rate's gonna be around 19.
Reedfield, yeah, between 19 and 20.
What were they last year?
15,
How much?
15.
That's a big chunk.
They had to do the same thing we're doing. They had to increase their employees and put, payroll and school budget. Because they have,
Well, that shouldn't, well.
it does them
Yeah, for
because
them, yeah, it depends on how it's
because they're on a,
different
fiscal
yearly
year.
schedule, yeah.
Yeah. That, and plus they're into that, they did that internet thing that's,
All broadband stuff,
yeah. that's
broadband's a big chunk of money.
Yeah, that's killing, they're seeing that this year, but then what didn't affect them last year, affected them this year.
So this is calculated local education appropriation on the new one. I just took the budget from the updated 119.23 for the estimated mill rate worksheet that was presented. So I took that total for the school for 6639, 956.82 and added 3.5%, which would be the high that the school board is saying. And I don't come out to that number. I come out to 6872, 355. Somebody else want to calculate that and just see if it's my calculator being wonky. So 119.23 on this municipal tax rate calculation form. School budget. You have a calculator handy, Dan, or anybody?
No, I mean, I got my phone, my phone calculator.
I know, that's what I was just
Every
doing.
time I do it, it comes up with a different.
I know, mine just keeps multiplying it. Well, so I cleared it out, so 66.39. 956.82 was the calculation for the school from 119. And then if we take that number and we add 3.5%. 66.39. 956.82 plus 3.5. It's a $232,000 increase, which puts it at 6872, 355.31. So on the high end of the calculation, I still don't come to that number. So then if we take 6891, 904, and we subtract 6872, 355. 31, we have a $19,548 difference.
Everything I could find that I see.
December 14, January 6, January 10, January 19. These have. So that's,
So where do we see that number?
this is December 14, so.
Okay.
Yep.
So that number, December 14 was 46.94.
Yeah, so that would be
45.79, so if we take,
But that was December, so you've got January 6, January 10, and January 19. So these are updated each time. Yeah, after each meeting.
so between this December 10th one, 14, and this number here, it's only $115,000 difference.
There were,
So
Wait,
this should be the
there
high.
was several meetings. So there were lots of changes. Like this one is 47.56.
So that one's increased a little
This one is the 47.56, so that one's the same, and then the 19 is 45.79.604.
bit. Okay, so this is the number, this is the most current number, is
Yes.
this one right here, 45.79.604. Minus.
So there's the 45.79, and then less revenue to reduce taxation is 2907.365.
Use that number quite good.
That's on your elderly one.
So in this calculation one,
Page 2. Should be this.
revenue, is there a revenue line?
Well, that's the revenue, 2907.365, and then your budget is 45.79.604.
Okay. And then this was from the 19th, okay. Now, Lorna, while you were doing that, I was looking on this municipal calculation. So I took from the 19th meeting. I took the school budget line item from here,
Right.
66,956, added 3.5%, which was the high of what they're estimating. And
Mhm.
this is the number that I come out with, which is $19,548 difference.
So it's only for 6 months. The, whatever that new figure is for the school budget, because their fiscal year is July 1 to June 30. So we're only going to pay that increase for 6 months this year.
Okay, so the other 19,548, where's that reflected? Because this number here was for the same 6 months. And then if I take their new number, if I take that number and I add 3.5% as if it was the whole year, this is the number that I come out to.
Right, but it's not gonna be this number.
So my multiply,
Do
am
you
I
see
adding
what I mean?
1.5%?
So your 3.5% is going to be paid for July, August, September, October, November, December. And January through June, we're making the same payment that we're making right now.
Right, but
So if
this,
you
this
add
number
those up-
here that's on here, where did that number come from?
Nick and I figured that out from calculating the first 6 months and then the second 6 months with the increase.
The first 6 months as we're paying now,
Right.
and then the second 6 months with the income.
Yes.
Percent.
That still leaves 19,458. Where's that number?
This is what we're paying right now.
No. This is what was on the first worksheet. 66,39,956. And then if I take that number and
Yeah.
just straight up at 3.5%. It comes out to
Well,
this number, so that's why I'm trying to figure out.
we figured, what was the number that Carl gave me, 375 to 425? So that's what we added, like for a year, divided the payments by 12. And then took 6 months of that. Does that make sense?
Okay, because
To get an
6 months for the
idea,
second half of the year.
right,
right,
to get an idea of what the cost might be.
so I guess I'm not seeing this the same. Because this should be the high number here. If we took that number, and we added straight across 3.5%. This would be the estimate. Which is a $19,000 difference from this number here. Well,
Well,
if that's a $19,000
the
difference.
school budget is up 3 to 3.5%. That doesn't mean our portion is only 3 to 3.5%. The figure he gave me, I believe, was 375 to 425. So the school budget is up, but it's not just 3.5, because I think if you figure that, I'm gonna guess that we're closer to a 5% for Belgrade. Our cost, but the school budget itself as a whole is up. Right now, it's at 3.5%. Carl's gonna try to get it to 3. He said our cost increase. He said our cost increase is gonna be that 375 to 425. So that's what we based our
So
estimate
then is this
on.
estimate of 425 over?
I wanna say we went higher to be sure.
Because
We
we're
weren't being
using,
conservative.
but the problem is if we're using this to calculate our exceeding the LD1 levy limit, these numbers can't be a guesstimate. They've got to be as close as we can get them. Because if there is, say, a $20,000 difference here, then that needs to
The
be,
school budget doesn't factor into the LD1.
but the education appropriation does.
You're looking at the mill rate calculation, not the LD1.
Confusing two different things.
Yes.
It's easy to do, lovely numbers.
Right, because I'm just trying to get us to here. Because this saying the 2022 municipal tax rate calculation form had our overlay at 103, which is
The-
40,000 more than this.
The 2022 that you're seeing at the top is of no consequence. That's the only form we have to use. They don't have the 2023 form out yet.
Right, but I'm comparing apples to apples. This is the form that we had for the 119 meeting.
Right,
And the overlay amount is 103,846.
right. We reduced that to keep the mill rate lower on our estimate. If you want to go a higher overlay, it will increase your mill rate.
Okay, but the tax rate calculation form says if line 23 exceeds line 20, which it does, select a lower tax rate.
The tax rate calculation form is correct. This is the one that Rob did for us, and all I did was change the line 8 municipal appropriation. And that education. That's all Nick and I changed. And the mill rate, again, is an estimate. Because you don't know until you do tax commitment what it's going to be.
He did this, but did they, or did they not figure in factory evaluation? No,
No, because you have, he said you have to use real numbers,
okay, I was just curious.
because I think Nick did that first time around, Herb said, no, we can't do that. So,
So the municipal appropriation went down 176,000. In those two numbers. So the previous one that Rob did was 4756,214. You said you and Nick plugged in new numbers.
Yeah, that 4579,603 is what we ended up with after your last budget meeting where you approved articles, except the very last article.
Okay, so
That was after.
So we
17.
reduced and then we increased the revenue applied to reduce taxation. So between those two, you're looking at a difference of 272,436 is what I wrote down over here.
what was the last thing you just said, Lorna?
272,436.
No, the one right before that.
The 4579,603.
Yes, where's that?
That's on the phone.
Oh, 4579. I was thinking like 45.
No,
Okay, so that one, and then what was the other number that's changed?
the two, it should be 2907365, the total deductions are what you're reducing the taxable amount by.
That's line 14.
That's back
On
on
your,
the levy limit.
yeah, if you look at 13,
Calculation, she would be,
2907365, and if you look at the 19th, Melanie, the article's description, that's a 2-page. You'll see everything's added up at the bottom, so it gives you the total and then the total deductions. So those two figures should match 13A and B. Melanie has it, nobody else does. I had sent it to you via email. So I went into email.
That one? I'm just trying to find the 163. Because it's still 100. So that's 10 by 176. And then 163,000 difference. Oh, it's not gonna be any more time tonight, but. I still feel like we're missing something to be at 63. And we've got to figure out what it is.
That. I don't, Mary, we don't need this, article on the warrant finalized tonight. Because this is for town meeting and they only need to post legally the warrant 7 days prior.
But what about printing it in the town report?
Yeah, if you want it in the town report, then you need it.
But even if it's printed in the town report, it's not legally binding. What is legally binding is the warrant that you post to the public 7 days prior.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever had the numbers though not be the same from here to the warrant. Mary, do we have to have this solved tonight?
Well, yeah, because so I asked Lorna to make sure that the board approves the whole warrant so we could get it printed and signed and put into the town report. Yeah, Lorna's right. Technically, you don't have to have it done, but that means whatever's in the town report is not going to be an accurate reflection.
Either that or you don't put the amount on the warrant article.
Right, leave the amount out.
Punching that number
And
in
then-
7 days, right? before you
And
meet.
then when you post the warrant for the public, you can include that number on that warrant article.
You could do it that way. And then that way you can.
Because you're not publishing anything false,
Right.
right?
So I mean, instead of leaving it blank in the town report, take that line and just put TBD.
Yeah,
Or if you
Or
do
the
the second,
alternate.
that alternate,
Alternate wording
Wording.
for Article 29. Doesn't.
oh,
have to-
the alternate.
As long as the wording's, I'd like to keep the wording the same, so it doesn't have a,
it is, except you don't have the figure,
okay.
I believe. If
So I
you-
mean, even if we do that, I mean, you could even, we could still go back to the original article, even when we post it. And then,
Put
once
the
we're all
number.
done with town meeting, then you determine whether you're open or not, you give people a number.
Right.
So whether you have to vote on it or not. Because we never used to have that number in the warrant article.
I don't know,
Sometimes,
2019 was the last time that we exceeded it, and we've only exceeded the property tax levy limit twice.
some towns put it in, some towns don't.
So. If I say we put it in the town report without the number.
Yeah,
Get
I
that
think that's
done.
the
Then we'll
best
just go
solution
from
at
there.
this point.
And then that way we can get it printed and, yeah,
And that way you can double check whatever you want to, probably gonna have to come in and sit down with that. Just double check it.
yeah,
And I
because we
think-
gotta make sure our numbers are right, because I don't, if, if we're gonna be exceeding it by 150,000 and we're saying it's 63, or whatever the numbers are, we gotta make sure our numbers are spot on.
And the other thing is, I think when people walk in at town meeting, we probably should have that last article, what the numbers are. When we start the meeting, hand it out to the people as they walk in, so they realize.
Yeah. And it's gotta be, this is what the tax levy limit is, this is what we're proposing, and this is the difference that you will be asked if you approve the. Because we'll have a new moderator this year, and Jay would walk folks right through that. So,
Who is the moderator this year?
Peter Mills, Paul Mills, sorry. Peter, Paul, Mary.
Units, pro.
Yeah. All right, so
So do we need a motion to accept Article 29, this second?
yes, and are we putting a line item in there that says, then we're putting TBD?
Well, we're just gonna change it over to the
The alternate.
alternate article, just didn't have to total.
It's just the second wording of Article 29 that just leaves out the. That was on that.
Right.
It's basically worded the same with the exception.
With the exception
of
of
a
the-
number.
Right.
of a number.
It's like this one.
There's too many little handouts
I know.
at the meetings.
We have this one.
There we go. Okay. All right, so. Are you making a motion that we, Article 29, that is the wording?
The
for Article
second
29?
wording for Article 29.
Okay, so the wording for Article 29, shall the town, motion is on the table. Shall the town vote to increase the property tax levy limit established for the town of Belgrade by state law in the event that the municipal budget approved in the preceding articles will result in a tax commitment that exceeds the property tax levy limit? Okay, so first is a motion to amend the article for that language. Barbara's motion, I'll second it. Is there any more discussion on that one? Saying that, Dan,
Yes,
Carol,
Yes,
Barbara?
Yes,
All right, 4 yeses, we can go with that order. And now I need a vote on approving overage or not approving overage. So, Dan?
what do you mean approve? Approving
So
what?
we have to do the select board approve, the select board's yes or no
Oh, on this article.
on this article,
Yeah,
Article
okay.
29.
kind of had to vote and find out what your approval is.
Right,
That would- So
but this goes in the book.
yeah,
Oh, no, I'm voting that we,
I mean, I wouldn't put it in the book. The books, I'd wait and do it when we,
And do your
Post your
posting, when you hand that handout, when people walk in a town meeting, they'll have bats when you'll have your select board.
yeah,
Or-
it's basically you can do it as a
or-
ballot, because it has to be done a secret ballot. Levy limit has to be done a secret ballot, can't be done on the floor.
Right, but the select board recommendation, because it's a monetary article, accompanies.
It's
the
not a
article.
monetary article.
You're not spending them when
Right.
you're exceeding. the
You're all-
budget.
budget, yeah.
Yeah, but you've already, if you're gonna exceed that.
And the budget committee normally recommends on it.
Right.
So
That's
this
it.
is not a, and I guess I don't want us to circumvent process because it's not convenient.
Right.
So this is the process. It is an exceeding of the state's levy limit. The select board normally votes on it, the budget committee votes on it, and then that's what's given for voters. I don't want for us to have the annual report and our numbers inconsistent. So I understand that there's confusion on the number. I'm confused on the number. But if we need to get this to print and we leave that empty, at some point in time, there has got to be a recording of the select board and the budget committee votes, because I don't want us to be like where we just were with the town manager form of government.
Right, but
And
we
we're
just,
gonna check,
we don't need to do that until we find out the number.
but then so it won't be here.
No.
So, but that's what I'm saying is, well, whatever it is that we do, and that's the final recording of our votes, that has got to be included somehow with the annual report when that information is saved for the town of Belgrade.
Oh, I see what you're saying. When it's on final.
We have to have a
record.
paper trail.
Right, we have a dedicated trail.
So
so
when we
it's
go
Even
looking
paper
at,
trail.
when we go looking at the annual report next year, somehow, some way, the ones we have in the office here that we all relied back onto for budgeting,
Right.
it shows in
Should have
that.
whatever we hand out at the meeting.
So what you have to do is you have to have like 20 of them annual reports and staple that page that you're gonna hand out at the town meeting.
Yeah, because we've got to make sure that we've got that.
So do we need to have the wording select board recommendation in this note, or do we just leave that out?
We could leave that in, but there's no vote taken. I mean, you're still. For next year, I've got the file anyway to do the warrant, but
But if the budget committee would.
What I would do is I just leave the wording in there and leave them blank.
And then,
When we take our vote, we can just write them into whatever reports we want to take down there with us, and anybody who wants to write it in can write it in.
and then you just have that sheet when people
Well,
walk
the
in.
page is already in there. so-
Right, no, I'm saying with the true levy limit,
Mhm.
when people walk in and they
Right.
register the, to see if you're registered voters, then they get a sheet with their voting card and.
So you'll have to have a budget meeting to get the budget committee to vote.
Yeah, which is-
So should it also say select board recommendation and budget committee recommendation,
It would have both.
but they'll both be blank? In the book,
In the book, they'll both
in the
be
book, they'll
blank.
both be blank,
Yeah,
but for the town meeting, 7 days before the town meeting, it'll be determined what the number is and what the vote is.
yeah,
Okay, there's,
okay.
there is nothing.
Phew. All right. All right, do we want to read through the whole warrant, or do we want to approve the warrant as presented?
Make a motion to approve it as presented.
I will second that. I don't want to read the whole thing.
I have a question if we're doing discussion here.
Hang on, first let me, I don't know, I already did second it. We are at discussion.
I thought so. So in looking back through this, and then I called today, it looks to me on Article 16. So bear with me if I have my facts right. I'm concerned, or I'm thinking there's a way we could get another 20,000 or so reduced in the budget. And that's because if my understanding is correct, when we get the Dalton revenue, the
This
Dalton
year.
revenue comes in and then flows through to general facilities. So, and the money is to be spent for the upkeep or whatever of the Dalton properties. So on Article 16, we have $27,550 allocated for repairs or expenses. So my question is, we will have anticipated revenue. And I was just doing rough numbers in my head. If we figure we currently have the garage rented, so we have revenue coming from that, that right now is flowing through and going into a fund that will eventually pay for repairs. And we anticipate renting the other building shortly, but if we say we don't rent it till July, if we take those revenues, there's sort of a flow through that we could use out of that Dalton Revenue Fund money, because we haven't allocated it elsewhere. And because we're appropriating 27,550, we could spend up to that amount, which would help us on that, lowering that number.
In the past, you've taken what you bring in for revenue during this year, and then you're using it when we do the budget in 2024 to reduce. But say you anticipated 20,000 in revenue for Dalton this year, you could, if you were confident, you could allocate all of that or some of
Okay, that to help
to
reduce it this
reduce.
year. And then it's a way to help this year. So I just throw that out
But it
for
would have to be done on the
consideration,
town floor.
huh?
It'd have to be on the town floor. We wouldn't be doing it today.
Why would it need to be the town floor?
Because the budget, well, one, the budget committee is not here.
This has all been approved already.
And the other thing is
But you keep that in your side pocket, like, hey.
the other
Wait a
thing
minute.
is,
That's why I was looking where we have finalized everything.
But I am
here.
serious about it.
Yeah,
Keep that as a no.
well, I've got another one over there too, but
the other thing is you gotta think about is that is money that's not collected. So technically, so if you change that at town meeting, that is, so you cannot expend that money until you've collected that money. I believe you'd have to check MMA, but for sure, that's how that, if we vote on it to do that. So you may not be able to use it, get that money, you may not have that $20,000 to spend until November. You're not gonna have time to get it spent. That's why I think it's better to use it.
Paying bills.
Right, that's why I think it's better to let, like we do all the other budgets, is what you bought this year lags over to. You know, we kind of, we messed up because we haven't been rented in it, you know, we've messed up because we kind of overdrawn from that account. But I think what we need to do is, you know, this is just me as a one person, is let it lap over to next year, and then we draw 2024.
In 2024, we draw off 2023.
no, I totally understand. I totally get it. Other than this was a way I was trying to think, how can we,
Right.
because I don't know where the revenue that we're collecting $850 or something on the garage now, so that money is somewhere.
That's building that not savings account, but capital reserve, that's almost zero.
Is it a capital reserve or is it it's a
The
facilities
Dalton
capital?
revenue is a pass-through, so the revenue comes in there, and then from there it goes in facilities reserve.
Under Dalton?
No,
No,
not
facilities
under
reserve,
So,
facilities.
which is almost empty.
Okay, I just,
but anything you can find that you think you can reduce it, just make notes, talk to Nick and everything else. You're gonna have to do it on the floor now.
okay, because we already,
We just approved the budget to go to print, and everybody's already voted on it, so you can't
well, we
change it.
didn't, we just voted now. We haven't done the final vote from the select board, have we?
Right,
But you
can't-
just made the
can't change-
motion.
Right,
This
you,
is discussion.
you can't change any dollar figures because you don't have a budget
Right.
committee yet.
Okay, all right, okay. So now my next question, since we're on this subject. and I'm making up numbers again, we got $1,000 in rent. Where do out of that $1,000 that flows through? Where do the management fees get paid? Do they get paid out of the regular facilities budget? And where does the electricity get paid? Does it get paid out of facilities electric, which I think it does? So moving forward, I think we maybe want to look at a little different calculation there, because the facilities budget is paying for the Dalton electricity, but all the revenue is going in, it's not the net revenue going into your facility escrow account, it's the total coming in and not the net.
Well, and you make a good point there, Carol, because originally, and this is, when are we gonna review the contract? With the,
Thought we was gonna do, we rented it back out.
right, so we need
I've
to,
had contact with the property manager, so.
yeah, so we need to look at the contract, we need what they're thinking with the contract, and we need a meeting. We haven't met with them for too many years. But the way it originally worked when the Dalton properties were going to be rented was that they paid a rental fee and then they paid for their heat and electricity. But then what happened?
The tenant
did. So nothing was included.
Right,
But then what happened was they were running the oil tank. out,
right,
And
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
everything.
so then what we did was we said, okay, so we're gonna increase the rent and we're gonna include the heat and electricity. But you're right, because the heat and electricity should be coming out of that rental income and
Right.
not out of any other budgeting. So we increased the rent to cover that cost, but we should make sure that those costs are being paid out of the rental income.
Yeah, I think
Before
we
that
need an
goes to a
accounting line
reserve
there somehow.
account, right? So there does need to be something in there.
So that it's net income.
Which means, I think what that means is in another year on funding from taxes, that would be the quote, electricity costs would be coming out of that fund
Correct,
that's holding all the money.
correct.
And that would be a source of revenue. And again, we'd be lagging a year behind.
Right, you pull that
We
back
wouldn't be
out.
pulling out of the tax base
Yeah, you pull that back out of that capital reserve to pay, to
to pay
offset
for.
2024 fuel and electricity for 8 and 10 Dalton.
Yeah,
And then somewhere we should have a paper trail on management fees.
Management fees that they take, right, at least they used to, I don't know if they still do, Lana may know this more than I do, but they used to. So if we was renting that at $1,000, they take a percentage before
I was
we.
gonna say, does the check,
I
they
think
rent
the
to go in the
check-
management fee and then the management fee.
I think the
like,
check
pays
comes
us,
from
okay.
the management company.
Company,
Yeah,
but that doesn't give us a
With-
true
with-
tax control
I see
cost.
our deposits, it's $855 a month for 10 Dalton, 10 and
So they must be
18.
paying,
9.
And electricity costs it fluctuates quite a bit, but you're looking at anywhere from 150, 200 a month, up to almost 800 a month.
so.
For
that's for
8
both
and
properties.
Right,
Oh,
okay,
8
right,
and-
because we had an issue with that, with the previous tenant.
Yes, I
So-
have read about
So
that
that's
in
why we
email.
also want to see, like, how is this contract written? Because we changed up lease requirements and we're like, well, we've got to put a cap on how much electricity we're willing to cover, and if you exceed that by $250, then that's on you.
right,
So, yeah.
No, let's get this.
Yeah,
Let's do that.
Reevaluate.
all right. Well, that's my comments on the motion.
No,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
a
anything
really
you can
good
find,
point.
we can
Yeah.
use it on the floor.
There's another one tucked away in here that I wrote down. Okay,
That's the good thing about being person.
in-person town means you can reduce stuff.
but then you have to explain it to everybody, which will take a while, but we may have a long meeting anyway.
That's what, believe it or not, I think when we had the longer town meetings, we had more people show up because it wasn't, thank you all for doing it. It was a lot of discussion, it went, and, you know,
But
people,
then some of the stuff we think people were gonna discuss, they'd be like, sure, well, okay. Never mind.
Some of the stuff that you wouldn't think would be any discussion on.
Right, all of a sudden,
Yeah,
everybody's
it's
all.
all
over
the
the-
articles, they'll fight us.
Okay,
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the warrant for printing with the amendment to Article 29. So
we already have that on.
Yeah, I
the
thought
floor.
we already.
It's already on the floor.
we
Yes,
did,
the
but if
motion that
we
Millie-
move this
Millie
warrant forward,
seconded.
it's this one with that article changed.
Yeah,
The
the-
whole, yep,
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yep.
She can first, I'll say.
okay,
Well,
all right, if there's no more discussion. Dan,
yeah,
Carol,
Yes,
Barbara.
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. Okay, emergency closing policy. Review. And then there was another update to that today. Correct?
Added a one line.
Something about town manager can make an exception to any of it.
Yeah, well, no, it's for an
Extenuating.
extenuating circumstance.
There was a situation where one staff member had a doctor's appointment on the snow day. And so she'd already requested time off. And the doctor's appointment was canceled because of the weather. So that meant she would have had to take 2 days off, but she wasn't gonna get paid for the snow day. But then that was already vacation time, personal time. So she was also going to have to take off another time. So it just being that kind of oddball situation that, she wouldn't have to take off twice.
yeah. Would,
Which
But
is
it's-
an unusual circumstance, that's not.
Yeah,
a
yeah, it's
norm.
not anything that would regularly happen, but it just seemed fair to. be pulled in.
So, and then, in looking at this policy, it looks like we're trying to encompass the Center for All Seasons and the transfer station under the same policy.
Yep, we looked at the transfer station, we looked at the Center for All Seasons. And it just seemed better to have.
And did the Center for All Seasons review of this policy go before their Board of Parks and Recreation? Because their closing policy was a direct result of their input to that, and if we're changing something that affects them, they should be somehow involved.
This doesn't really change anything.
Doesn't change anything for them because all of their closings were
Hinged
contingent
on
on
that.
RSU 18, but it also said.
Unless
If
the town facilities were closed.
P.S. if the town office closes, if the town is closed, then there's no childcare after school. If the town office if the town office closes, if the town is closed, it was all contingent on if the town is closed. So it didn't change anything at all for the center. And the transfer station had that in their policy, they had that, they would be open the next day, but they apparently don't do that.
On Wednesdays, they open on Thursdays, but they've never done a Sunday, but I don't recall we probably ever closed on us, I can't remember, I know we closed Wednesday, but I don't remember. Because
we closed one Saturday last
closed
week.
early.
early,
I
right,
don't remember if we've actually.
closed the full Saturday, because
Actually, close on a Saturday,
Right.
although I did offer it to Ken this time, I said, listen. When I went in on Wednesday, I said, if you got, I want to be sure the recycling building people are gonna be warm. And that you guys are warm down here, if we're looking at 47 below, I don't want anybody in a dangerous situation. And then,
yeah, they got lucky, they didn't have hardly anybody when it was really look over.
yeah.
I mean,
so-
in that situation, I would have been happier if the town just said, we're closing. It's so brutally cold that.
Problem is that you got, if you close it, the biggest problem is it's not only residents you put it out to, you make a problem for your commercial haulers.
Well, then you contact your, I'm just saying to expect them to be there.
Yes, yeah, and so, like my son picks up on Friday to dump on Saturday. So if he can't dump on Saturday, now he's stuck with a load of garbage for another full day that could freeze in even harder. And it's not only him, there's another hauler that comes in on Saturday too, and he picks up, I believe, because he's usually there early in the morning first, so I'm assuming he picks a load up on Friday too.
Well, I mean, if you said to those, okay, we're gonna be open for you two for a half hour, an hour, that's all I'm saying.
I mean, I
thought
know like
It was
Reedfield,
dangerous for them to be open.
Reedfield, I know Reedfield, he calls Reedfield, like, they were closed for snow day. But they told him to call them, the commercial salt,
Yeah.
okay, you call and you're ready to come, but again, so now you're asking I guess this is the kind of thing I don't like, is now you're closed, but you're asking your manager to drive in a storm to offload a commercial hauler, if so he's driving back and forth, you're better off just to be open. Or open, extended hour, shorten your hours or whatever. I mean, my biggest thing is the only issue I have on this policy is Dan don't get paid when he don't go to work on a snow day. Melanie don't get paid when she doesn't go to work on a snow day. I don't get paid in granted, I'm on my own business, but my employees don't get paid on a snow day. Hammond Lumber employees don't get paid on a snow day.
Are you sure?
Hammond Lumber, plausible. I know a lot of people working, they don't get paid on snow day. It's how only places that really pay for snow days is some municipalities in the state.
Every municipality that I talk to pays for snow days,
But I mean,
weather days.
I'm not, as a taxpayer, I'm not in favor of it. And plus, and I go by fairness, how things are fair, and I don't want to hear that, well, they're emergency responders and they have to do it, and their facility mates have to. Well, it doesn't feel good to these other employees when these employees are home getting paid, they have to work. And that's not very fair. So somehow, some way, you gotta make it fair across the board. If you're gonna pay everybody else to be home, then you gotta compensate for these other people, because it didn't happen during COVID. These people were home getting paid, where the essential workers were here and didn't get compensated for it, and it's not fair. And when they were asked if they could take a vacation time for a break, and they said, ask for it, well, taking vacation time, they were told no. Several of them were, I know 3 people that asked because they were stressed. That was before, way before long, and that is not fair to the rest of the employees in this town. Either we do something straight across for all the employees, or we make it fair. If it's a snow day, the ones that don't work don't get paid, the ones that work get paid. Or you compensate the ones that have to work. And I'll be fair with that, and I'll be fine with it. Otherwise than that, I will fight this all the way. I'm just, as a taxpayer and as an employer, it's gotta be fair. And it's not fair when you're sending employees home with pay and other employees have to work and you don't get no compensation.
Right.
And the other thing I think also is, if employees are already at work and they decide that, oh, we're closing, but it's not that bad out, and they're at work and it's gonna make it so they're gonna have more work the next day because they can't, like the transfer station, they can't complete their work and they're already there and they're willing to stay there to, they're fine with staying to finish their work. If it's closing, they should be allowed to stay to finish, not you gotta go home.
Well, there is a contingency in here to cover that situation, that, under emergency support staff, it says the town manager may designate employees as emergency support staff if she determines their job functions are necessary to conduct town business. So that means that Lorna, if the town is closing at 3 o'clock and the transfer station is open until 7 o'clock on Wednesday, then Lorna can designate the transfer station as emergency employees and have the transfer station open until 7 o'clock.
But the other thing, what I'm saying is if they close on, so say for instance, town office closes at noon on Thursday, and they're trying to process on Thursday in the recycle center, and they need Thursday to process and Friday to process to get ready for Saturday. If they're made to go home on Thursday, they're not gonna have time to get their processing
Well,
done.
it's the same thing. Then Lorna can say, today you're emergency employees and you can stay to work. I mean, that gives the flexibility here.
But
To
then it
declare
clearly
anybody.
says if you're an emergency support staff who works during regularly scheduled hours, they'll be paid at their regular rate of pay. So that's his issue.
Right, that's my 100% my.
Because essentially, you know, you. could
That's a
designate-
normal. I
I-
worked 7 years as an essential
Yeah, and-
employee. I worked every holiday, every snowstorm, everything for 7 years, Bruce. I never got
I'm
additional.
the same
pay.
way.
During COVID, I was one of less than a dozen that stayed and worked at the detention facility.
and I
Everybody
can-
else was out. I worked 24/7.
I can tell you,
I did not get extra.
you can take 100 taxpayers in this town and you discuss this same thing to the 100 taxpayers in this town, and they're all gonna say, I'm gonna guess that 80% of them, at least the ones I've talked to, 80% of them are gonna say, we're not, we're not in favor. This is not fair. It's not fair. People, yeah, I mean, you hear it even in stores and stuff, people talk about when the state closes down and state employees are getting paid for it. People in this state are disgusted with it, especially on some of the snow days or days that we're closing, that we shouldn't be closing. I mean, me and Dan talked a little bit last night. Dan had a good idea. Maybe instead of closing, just do a delay,
That's
Do
what we
what?
did on the
I'm
last
sorry?
one.
a delay.
Well, it depends on the conditions.
Right.
Sometimes if there's a huge blizzard, you have to close.
Right.
Sometimes you can do a delay, sometimes you can close
I'm
early.
just saying, I mean, I realize, and you know what, the people that are, this is just me, I'm not talking for employees, I'm talking at me as a taxpayer. All I'm saying is, it's not fair, it's not fair that one of the boys are out plowing and town office closed and they're thinking about, geez, they're getting paid, that's at home, and I'm gonna sit here and work the next 14 hours. It's just,
It's the type of job. I mean, if you agree to do an emergency job, then those are the conditions under
Oh,
which
but
to
it's-
accept the
Law
job.
But
enforcement does it every
it's,
day.
it's not a standard, way I look at it, let's keep it the way it is, and why don't we put it out to vote? In June, and see what the voters vote on it, and see what they decide.
This is a policy. This isn't.
Hey,
anything else. It's not
like I said,
anything-
if
It's not
I
anything that the
I make
taxpayers
it,
have to.
I haven't decided yet, but whatever way you guys go, if it isn't the way I think it should go, I may get a petition. This thing has really got me wound up, it's not fair, I've argued this. I even, Ricky, God bless him, he was not in favor of it either, and I chewed his ear, I can tell you, many, many years, every time about this. And don't get me wrong, I believe in closing when things are dangerous, I believe in closing, but I just believe in fairness in this town. And it's not fairness in this town. I don't care what it is in other towns, I don't care what it is in the state of Maine. We're a town of Belgrade, let's make things in the town of Belgrade, the town of Belgrade.
Well, employees who leave because of a closing or don't come in or come in late, the hours that they don't work are not counted towards overtime. So if there is a situation,
But
Yeah,
the
but
town office don't get overtime. Over the library, over Central seasons, and I'm not picking on these guys. In Atlanta, I'm not picking on
The
you,
town office does get overtime
probably one
if they
person.
work overtime.
Yeah, if they work overtime, but that usually is not overtime in town office, I don't realize
There
that.
are situations where there's overtime.
But that's my opinion, and I mean, I've been harsh on this, I think I've chewed Melanie's ear a couple years on this too,
That's why it's a draft.
and,
I don't know what'll be
Ricky was the one I used to beat on the worst about it on it, and I really feel bad.
And then he'd call me. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding. So one typo in here I noticed, under expectations for employees, traveling needs an additional L in there. Or needs, yes. I think my little circle, no, but we need to ditch an L. So traveling, just one L. And then I would like to strike from here. Employees are expected to plan accordingly, including accounting for extra time needed, because that sounds like we are treating adults like they are not adults. So I would think that that does not need to be in there.
What part was that one?
It's under expectations from employees. When the town is operating normally, employees are expected to report to work as scheduled, which I don't know why that would even be in there in a closing policy. But then says during extreme weather, employees are expected to plan accordingly, including accounting for extra time needed to travel to and from work. And I think that that is making in a policy, essentially, we're telling adults that they're not smart enough to leave early. And if they come in late and say it was because of the weather, then they don't get paid for being late.
So just take out that sentence during extreme weather.
Yeah, and I don't think that we need in there when the town is operating normally, because this is an emergency closing policy, not a normal order of business policy.
I think the point was that when the town is, like when the town is operating under questionable weather, employees are expected to report to work.
Or maybe unless notified by the town, employees
Right,
are
but
expected to go to
we don't
work.
need it.
I mean, I know what you're
Yeah,
getting
I
at.
see what you're getting at there, but I think. Yeah,
Look to rework that one.
Can just take it out.
The paragraph that says procedures. Where it says will be closed, down second line from the last. Says will be closed, it should say or delayed. Because it says closing and delays at the top. And also at the very last line where it says possible closures, it should also say or delays.
That's in the next paragraph.
But it said it still should be in that paragraph. Because it's talking, that should be the statement.
Okay, say that again, because you had a couple.
So I think the next paragraph though addresses delay.
so Dan, what's the one that you're looking?
It
Which
says
was the
the
first
town
one?
manager or designate after
Yeah.
consultation with the chair of the board of select persons shall determine whether the town facilities, including transfer station, public library, and recreation programs will be closed or delayed
Oh,
due to extreme weather or unsafe conditions.
Well, then, but the second paragraph is about delays.
Right.
So we could have A, closing, and B, be delays.
I think the point I hear Dan making is you're saying right up front, if it's gonna be closed or delays, so that it's just a consistency.
Right. And then the same thing in the very last line, possible closures or delays by 6 AM. I think that needs to be.
Well,
in
it
that
kind of
paragraph.
looks, Dan, like essentially it says if we're talking about closing, then the town manager consults with the chair, but if it's a delay, then the town manager decides.
Well, that's
Is how
what's gonna
that
get down to the next
Worded,
part, and I
don't
still
think
want
that's
to
appropriate.
consult with the chair or somebody.
And we have a standard 1 hour delay. What is the standard from?
Where do you see that?
Under procedures,
Second
the second
paragraph, second
paragraph says a standard 1 hour delay. Who is
I
that?
think that's just a common 1 hour delay, just to allow time for clearing of roads and clearing of driveways and.
I don't think I've ever, well, as far as wondering where standard came from, because even if the school closes or delays, it's always a 2 hour delay to allow for cleanup. So I was like, well, where did the standard come
I have to
from?
say, I know a lot of the town offices on the last one was like one of them had a 2 hour delay, some had I think,
You open it.
Refield or one of them had a 3 hour delay. And,
Yeah, I think it just depends on the
Augusta going
conditions.
to 10, so.
Yeah.
Just.
yeah.
Well,
Well,
you
they can
could
just
say a
say-
delay allows additional time
Right,
and
so
leave the
yeah,
word
you have to
standard.
put a number in there.
1 hour.
No, or
Right.
just say sometimes the timing of a storm warrants a delayed opening to clean buildings and clear
Additional
sidewalks, take out all the rest.
So why don't would we say allowing? Sometimes the timing of a storm warrants a delayed opening, allowing additional time to clean buildings and clear sidewalks and stairs before buildings are open to the public.
Sometimes an extended delay, if you want to say e.g. opening at noon, or just leave that out as well.
Well, we opened at 11, so I think on the last one,
So just say sometimes an extended delay is necessary and not say,
yeah, I wouldn't put a time in there. Just in case they're like, hey, storm will be done at 8, and we're like, great, 10 o'clock sounds good. And under expectations for employees. In these situations, employees must notify their supervisors of their intent as soon as possible. I think I would also put in there a time frame. 5 minutes of 8 is not an appropriate time. But if we're saying that by 6 AM, we'll make an effort on possible closures, then I would think that employees need to notify their supervisor at least an hour in advance of their start time, if they're not coming in.
Rather than just saying as soon as possible.
Right, because then it leaves it up just to, say, the rec center's down an employee. They've got kids, they have to have a set number of people there for the kids, so if the rec director isn't notified until right before they open, then they may not be legally staffed. So I wonder if we should put a time in there, like 1 hour prior to your start time, or at least like a minimum of 1 hour.
I'm just trying to think if that can be consistent across the board, and if that can be.
Well, the office opens at 8 or 8:30.
8.
8. So you could put a time. Employee must notify their supervisors their intent by 7 AM.
Well, except that if it's
Oh,
rec
except
there's
center,
others
then
there.
they wouldn't be there until 3 o'clock or something.
Yeah.
For the library or
Yeah, yeah.
Or an
transfer
hour
station.
before their start time.
That's what I was saying, an hour before their regularly scheduled start. And on the second page, under full-time and part-time employees, there's a line that says employees may be asked to work remotely to the extent possible. And I've just put no on the side of that.
Well, I think that was in there. In the event that we do have remote work at some point, remote options.
No, the town office employees shouldn't be working remotely.
They may at some point.
Well, if they are, then it goes directly against the guidance that the lawyer and our assessors gave.
Honestly, if you look at corporate America, most of the remote going back to the office, so.
I'd say it's a big mix. Just to take that out.
I would take that out.
So can you work this and bring it back for us?
I think if I'm gonna end up voting for this, we're gonna have to find a way to, if we're gonna pay the employees that aren't working, then you're gonna have to either come up with comp time or something for the other people.
What some towns do is that for emergency employees, they pay time and a half during emergency events, like what we're talking about. They pay overtime after an 8-hour day,
Oh,
rather than accumulating it over a week. Just one of the towns I talked to does that.
so if someone is working 12 hours because of storm, plowing, cleaning, 8 of those hours are gonna be overtime?
No, 4.
I mean, 4, I'm sorry, yeah. 4
Yeah, 4
would
would
be,
be overtime rather than being totaled into the week. Because it might
If
not,
8 hours is a regular work.
if 8
day,
hours is.
Right.
If the regular work day is 10 or 12 hours,
Right,
then they would have to go over that.
right.
or if you
that's-
had a part-time person who works 4 hours,
Do we have
And they're
anyone who
working
works a
6 or
10
7.
12-hour day normally?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Do we have any?
Fire and rescue.
They were 10,
Fire and
4
rescue,
10s.
yeah. Well, that was my other thing here is, we don't have anything with the fire department, and I know there's a different set of rules essentially. But I did put a note in here about fire department under emergency support staff because,
Yeah,
That's public safety.
they're always gonna be considered emergency support staff.
right,
That's public safety.
right. So they would.
Rather than-
then
rather than
be
calling them-
entitled to overtime.
I took the headings from the budget count. It's rather than saying specifying fire and rescue, I put public safety, and rather than saying roads, put public works, since that's how we have them listed budgetarily.
Mhm.
I mean, we may, I don't know, there may be some emergency that we would need to have road work done, right.
Like the culvert on, on the storm drain on the west road.
Yeah. At the West Road 135.
Yeah, that was bad. Okay, does anybody have anything else to pick this apart about tonight? Seeing none, let's move on.
What about Dan's discuss, what about what Dan brought up?
Well, we're still working,
We're gonna find,
it's still a draft.
like I said, we're gonna, in the draft, we'll have to figure out what we're gonna do. We gotta add some comp time or something in, or time and a half, or a double time or something.
Just something, just something to make it more fair, that's all I'm asking, just make it fair for everyone. I don't care what other towns do, we're the town of Belgrade. Let's do something for the town of Belgrade and all our employees, not just some employees, do it for all of them, that's why we moved everybody's pay up.
Ken, who's on iPhone?
Right, but I think it's important that we look at other towns because we're competing with other towns for
I think
employees.
that's Regina.
So,
That's what it was last time.
what?
No,
was
she was
Regina.
under, she had her picture up with Regina Coffin.
Yeah, she said somebody said though that it was Regina.
No, she was up earlier with her name.
That was Gina Coppins on iPhone.
Okay,
And there's the message right there.
okay. So Gina, is that you back on iPhone?
Oh, she said she couldn't figure out how to unmute. So that could be her again.
All right, so new business. That's why I was wondering if it was Ken, because this item for the disposal of the old building is in. Okay, so disposal of the old building at the transfer station. I'll take a motion to open that item.
So moved.
Moved and seconded, so open for discussion.
So if we decide to give this away, do we have a form? Or disclaimer?
No. And we also, the question was, like, this is sort of the first blurb that we had. There were some other questions about, is it a, what if there's more than one person, or do we offer it?
Put it out for bid.
I don't think Ken is comfortable letting someone take it because, like he said, look at his comments. What if they want to take it, but they don't follow through? And I mean, goodness, it's what a mess, all of that seemed
the
to
guy-
me. I would just,
Right, and the guy that wanted to get it, the trailer he was gonna haul it on, and
I would just trash it.
wasn't,
More of a headache than it's worth.
I can
I think-
see us, somebody. I'm just talking out of turn, I wish Ken was on, is if we're doing this as the office giveaway, then we're gonna end up with our employees helping to load the thing. And then we could take a chance of one of the employees getting injured. We're not building new bids.
Well, and what we had done when we had the previous trailer there that was used as a break room was we said when we are done with it, we are done with it and we are disposing of it.
That's what we did.
Because
Both of them.
So if this isn't fit to be used as an office anymore,
I just say, haul it down back, and next time we're over there with an excavator or something,
Well,
flat that.
that's what they was gonna do, that's why I said where it is, was getting ready to put it in the dumpster, but either you guys approval to
Just
do it.
flat.
yeah, no, not the dumpster.
I don't know if we can put it because of a sheet rock, unless we strip it. We'd have to strip it down, put the shingles, and that maybe, Ken's pretty conservative when it comes to putting stuff where it's gonna be the best financial for the town.
And is there anything that it can be repurposed for at the transfer station? And we've got the Too Good to Throw building, you know, I mean, how shanty is this?
She's pretty,
Pretty
shanty.
yeah, she's pretty.
Okay.
Pretty
The
shanty.
windows are about ready to fall out.
If it were anything good, Ken
Ken
would
would
probably
have,
try.
Ken would have kept, yeah, Ken would have,
Ken's willing to let it go.
yeah, Ken would have kept it for an office. If it was still something that was not ready to fall in, you know,
Mhm.
brought out, Ken would have kept it for, Ken is very fuel go of it all for the town, that's.
All right, so I guess my recommendation will be that we do not. We don't offer it to anyone and that we instead dispose of it because it's essentially. It's not safe. It's not a safe building.
Not safe, I don't think it'll survive someday hauling it off. Probably won't even survive.
And then it'll be all down the West Road.
Oh, Lord.
And there's enough stuff that goes into my yard.
Yeah.
All these 5-gallon empty water things. I don't know who carries them, but they're always showing up at my property. Like
There's
they-
somebody
Those
that,
big 5-gallon
Yes.
ones, we buy those all the
Oh
time.
my gosh, well, maybe
That's
they're
what-
yours. Whoever
No.
drives by, they're like. "What is
No, we
going
turn
on?"
out or
It's
whatever
coming.
that deposit is, you have
Yeah.
to pay a deposit,
Yeah.
yeah. So we turn them in and then we get a ticket. to each one.
Yeah. I'll put a little box out there that says, make a better shot.
say another couple weeks ago, they'd be looking for all kinds of them.
Yeah, just the sap,
Yeah.
they use them for sap.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I made the motion that we dispose of that. We second it?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any more discussion on it? All right, seeing none. Dan,
Yes,
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
4 yeses. Okay, next up, we have a request to place foreclosed property for sale by sealed bid.
where do, normally we have a map, exactly where it is.
It's on the west road. 1046 West Road. This is what Nick provided me, so this is, what I included. I also grabbed the policy so you would have. that.
Also, it's on the other end.
It's down on the Castle Island side of, back on the road side to the lakes. Down
And it
there,
looks
So from the intersection towards the lakes.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Just before, I'm guessing, I'm thinking, just before you drop down over the new speed limit sign.
Oh,
just
okay.
Right in that area.
Right, because I'm
Down
thinking
there,
the
Cheryl.
Trozzies
Just by
are,
the sheriff.
because the Trozzies are like 946.
Yeah, Cheryl's 11 something, so it'd be,
This way back a
south of
little.
her.
Okay.
Just so you know, we have advanced knowledge, so we can't.
Huh?
We can't use our advanced knowledge. Like we can't be like, small piece of property on the West Road. And then,
Yeah, I'm not thinking there's anything that's really ratty looking, so.
is there
That
a,
would be
there's a
abandoned.
picture on this?
It looks like on the,
Yeah, there is, because they've got land and building
yeah, land
value.
and building. Land 40,200 and building up 131.
And it's just a mystery, the person paid $1,000 in September
The
21.
that check that you see, the copy of the check is the last payment 2021 and Nick, actually contacted the bank, it was drawn. To
East
try
Hampton.
to get an address. Nothing, I even did like, I Googled the name. And then I found some people in Massachusetts, but I don't think it's not the same.
Well, he's in East Hampton, it says here.
I looked on Facebook, that's a good way to find people, I could not find this person either. So I have no idea.
Have we
And Nick
talked to
has
the
no idea.
neighbors, or
I'm
do we
sorry.
know who the neighbors are?
Haven't talked to the neighbors.
Yeah, one of them may want to put in a bid. I
Yeah,
don't need any thought.
we should notify them.
I bid on the last one we put out.
And we've attempted to find any surviving relatives. If we can't find this person.
I am pretty good detective wise, but I couldn't find anything.
Oh.
When Nick gave this to me. Nick's not on Facebook, but I am, so that really, you, oftentimes you can find the people
Right, yeah.
and message them. We've done
There
this
is an
quite a
empty
bit.
property. There is an empty property, a building house on the left, when you're coming from Cass Island Road on the left-hand side. There is an empty house in there, it's down in the woods.
Probably, yeah.
Actually, I remember seeing, you go down, Long Lake Cottage, Camp Road. When you're driving down, you look off the right-hand side, you can see it's in a bunch of pines, and actually it's a tree on top of it.
On top of the house.
Yeah.
That fell on top of the house.
Yeah, until, I think, during that microburst we had. Then that's our, that's the only reason I know it was empty, because the tree hasn't been.
All right, well, I'll make a motion.
House when the tree fell.
Go ahead, put it out.
All right,
I'll second that.
Ooh, moved and seconded.
Wait, what was the motion?
So the motion is to put the foreclosed property out to bid. It's moved and seconded. Oh, no wonder they get that, but she's the recorder of the votes.
Maybe Tyler will try bidding on it like he did last time. Remodel it, so.
Oh, sure you will.
Can't afford to bid on it. Like a place in Florida.
You what?
Find a place down in Florida.
Oh, really? Where are you buying?
Like Alfred. It's in a retirement community. I'm just gonna rent it out until we.
Where's Lake Alfred?
It's right in the middle of Florida. It's there near Lakeland. and-
Oh, okay. Clock Tower, is the clock tower in there? Okay.
It's in Lakeland, isn't it?
Okay, over a quarter of the votes. Dan made a motion that we put the foreclosed property to bid by sealed bid. Carol seconded it. There's no further discussion. Dan,
Yes,
Karen,
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. All right, moving on to the Spirit of America nominations. I did notice on. There's one spot, Lorna, I think, on the website where you put in the fillable form. But I think there's another spot on the website that says Town Spirit of America nominations are due by February. I think it was February 2nd of 2023, and I know you moved it to March.
Mark one, yeah, that was
Right.
what was on that
Yeah,
2020
And so
form.
I was like, I gotta remember to tell her. there's
Okay.
a-
So I'll make a note here, big letters. February date, that's fine.
Okay, Spirit of America nominations, I'll take a motion to open that item.
So, second.
Okay, moved and seconded, that is open for discussion. Okay, so the Spirit of America Foundation tribute is presented in the name of the main municipalities to local individuals, organizations, and projects for outstanding community service. So there are 3 nominations at this point. So the first nomination is for Bruce Galouche, nomination made by me. Reason for the nomination, Bruce's many years of service to the town of Belgrade includes decades on the Belgrade Fire and Rescue Department, as well as being an active member of multiple communities in town, notably the Budget, Cemetery, and Transfer and Recycling Committee. He watches out for the citizens in the town at every turn, and his historical knowledge of past town decisions is instrumental in keeping us on a steady path moving forward. He sometimes is in the right place at the right time and has saved the town from potential issues with his keen eye and his rapid responses. We are lucky to have him in our community. It's kind of rough, but.
Your face is red, blue.
Yeah.
No, it is good. I wasn't sure if I was the only one who's catching that. All right, the second nomination is for Maureen Milliken. That's also made by me. Maureen has a passion for journalism and is the editor of the Belgrade Bulletin. She is an accomplished author of the Bernie O'Day Mystery Series, as well as 2 nonfiction books. She spends multiple hours, 16 plus at times, compiling the article submissions, advertisements, and photos into an easy-to-read, highly informative bulletin that is the main source of community news for every household in Belgrade. She selflessly volunteers not only on the communications committee, and we need an extra E on that, and as the editor of the Belgrade Bulletin, but is also on the library board of trustees. Trustees.
Sure.
I thought, but then I was like, I didn't dare to put that. Okay, so is also chair on the library board of trustees. Belgrade values Maureen's talents and contributions to our community. All right, the third nomination is for Michael Hano.
He spells his name I-A-L.
That's what I thought. I was like,
My CHI.
I-A-L.
Yeah. I know Mike Grandma. In Scotland together.
so we can just fix my spelling. Michael assisted the town of Belgrade for several years as the town sexton. When the town lost personnel right around the Memorial Day holiday and program, he stepped right in and offered to help with whatever was needed. He acted as the interim sexton and performed all the duties incumbent upon a sexton even before he was given the title and compensation. He's always willing to lend a hand and has been instrumental in helping newer employees learn the SIM system as well as any other guidance he can give. Belgrade is lucky to have Mike in our community and we value his contributions.
I'm gonna say the 2022 Memorial Day holiday, just to. Or is this, does this imply that it was for last year?
Well, it's the award is for community service in the year 2022.
2020, okay.
So I have more coming. I need Mary's guidance with one of them because I need to see how many years someone was on certain committees. So, and if anybody else wants to put one in and anybody, well, there's nobody else watching, but if anybody wants to, there's a PDF fillable form now on our website.
Oh,
And if you look on our town Facebook page, there is a pinned post about it and the form link is there. You can
Oh,
click
good.
right from Facebook.
So I wonder if we can grab that pin post too and share it. All right, does anybody else have any more Spirit of America nominations? Your face
You
is
just
not
keep on
bending
going.
anymore. Good job. Well, and my intention was to have them in our book so that we could be doing it across the year, and I realized I didn't do it still then. I was compiling a list in my head. And when Lauren was like, we don't have me, I'm like, I'll get better. I'm gonna get on it.
I was like
Okay.
really disappointed on this because I hear community members speak highly about other community members, so I know,
Right.
right.
right? I
So
know
that's
that
where I
there is
was
an
like, well, I
intent to
know there was a
recognize.
PDF form and I just sworn we had a fillable one, so. She grabbed the one and made it fillable and now we can, and I'm much faster at typing than I am at hand scratch. Well, we've all seen my hand scratching, so. All right, so next up, Water District Trustees. Okay, I'll take a motion at this item.
So,
All
second,
right, moved and seconded. My thought here is that we're not ready to appoint specifically. Do we want to start pulling together names? And then make decision, well, and also make sure that these folks want to be appointed as trustees.
Carol was the only one who responded with regard to that book. from-
oh, yeah.
I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at it, but it's pretty informative. Did anyone else want one of those to look at or?
Oh, I
not?
was thinking
It's
when
like
she said yes,
137 pages.
that
Oh, that was
I
a
would,
trustee.
well, no, I was like, oh, okay, so I was thinking because you said yes, I was like, well, then we'll all have a copy.
Oh.
Cause I was thinking it was like a blanket, yes, like, if any of you want, she was like, oh, yes, I was like, okay, we'll all get one. So-
I thought she only meant for her, so I only did one for her when you came in and signed the warrant, but I'll print some and put them in your box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't-
Bedtime reading.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll put you to sleep pretty quick.
Okay, so do we want to state names now, or do we want to leave this open-ended and for the next meeting, start compiling lists of names? We'll table this item and bring it back to the next meeting.
I'm not sure, but I have one question about the procedure here, because it cites this main statute that as far as the terms of the first board are governed by Maine revised statutes, and I didn't look that up. So does anybody know what that means? Lorna, do you know what that means under section 5 first board? Does that mean that
The
one,
first board of
that it's
trustees
staggered,
is actually-
terms?
It's staggering.
Yes.
Staggered
and
terms.
you- Did I include the LD in the back anywhere? If not,
The
I'll.
LD about the water district.
Oh, yeah,
our
well,
water.
that tells you
Well,
what
but
you're,
it says
how those are done.
after the appointment of the first board. Oh, okay, so the first board is gonna stagger it. Be
Right.
staggered.
Where does it say
I
that?
skimmed this and I didn't pick up on that. It's the very bottom of the memo, section 6, terms of trustees. And that was my question. Does this mean everyone's gonna turn over every 3 years?
Right, but it just says after the appointment of the first board of trustees, trustees are appointed to 3-year terms.
You do staggered at first and then
Right.
so
So the first one will, one person will have a
expire
1-year
and
term,
then
one will
the
have a
next
1 year,
2
2 year,
Yeah,
3 year.
yes.
But presumably that's specified in this particular statute.
Yeah, it will be. I haven't looked it up, but it will be.
Okay.
It's the same idea when you're setting up select boards. It's
Yeah.
done staggered.
Yeah.
to
Stagger them.
Yes.
And when do we have to have our trustees appointed by?
Well, as part of your final agreement, you're supposed to be doing this in good faith once that agreement was signed, moving forward, which they're moving forward for their responsibility. So it's the board's responsibility that would be the next step is appointing trustees.
So I'm thinking maybe we boggle our brains and bring it forward next week, next meeting. But I would like to sort of think through it.
Do we want to put it out in the town newsletter? Is that something to put out in the town newsletter?
When's the newsletter go out?
So I can, the word articles are.
The deadline is February 15th for the newsletter.
We have to have articles by Monday.
Right, actually, sure, but
And
Friday, if
Um,
possible, who's gonna put it together the following weekend.
information from you.
Yeah, I saw the email today. I mean.
Okay.
Town use profile I had the last time.
She may not still have it.
Emailed somewhere. But I'm probably not gonna be here for that candidate forum anyway.
You can zoom in
I'm gonna be on my way to Florida.
from the plane.
Yeah, sign paperwork.
He's over here like, I'm on the coast. Well, and maybe what she does is she puts that blurb in and says Dan Newman's unable to attend the forum because he's out of town.
If you wanna check with her, we'll be in committee all day tomorrow. So if you wanna check with her and see if they've got the stuff from the last time. If they do, great. If they don't, then I'll have to try to put something.
Don't you have
together.
something from when you ran? You have a headshot?
Yeah, I got all kinds of headshots from the state.
Yeah.
I don't think they want me headshot in the middle of the chamber, but state house. in
He's
the
like,
background.
selfie. Send that to
What did
Jan.
you use when you sent out your postcards?
Well, most of it was all in front of the
Was
state
that
house.
all?
so,
Okay,
But you can just clip out your head.
Well, like I said,
yeah.
they should have it in there. From last time, but. If she doesn't, then I'll try to get something together.
You letting her know that she reached out.
So we're going to-
again
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion that we table the water district trustees to the next meeting.
I second that.
How many trustees you gonna have?
3.
Three?
I mean, I'm just questioning, do we want to put something, try to put something in the news? Do we want to make it a public?
Well, so when I do the select board highlights, I can put something in there about someone, or maybe, Lorna, are you doing something in your town manager report that the voters approved? Because I usually do what happens at the board, and then the town manager does the outside stuff.
Okay,
So will you have something in yours that says that the voters approved the select board, contract with Maine DOT? And the next step is that we need to appoint 3 utility water district trustees. If you have any experience and blah, blah, blah.
In the water district.
Right. We have experience, we like to hire you away from whatever town
You wouldn't have that then for our next meeting, probably.
Right, because it
Just-
doesn't come out until.
It doesn't come out,
Right,
so
so why don't we do the first meeting in March
So there's, try and think.
for
of
the
name.
tabling?
Is, our contact groups, get his name, was a gentleman on 135 works for a water district in Augusta. I don't know if he'd be interested in being a trustee anymore. Mike,
Oh, the one that
yeah.
lives right now in Kevin Hollis.
Yeah,
I
well,
went
yeah,
to school with him.
yeah, well, fatal was Mike,
Mike,
Suarez. And that'd be one.
Oh,
one
yeah,
contact.
they worked over there. Yeah, for,
Yeah. No,
so Mel, you have a motion on the table or a motion to table to the first March meeting.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, which is the
Summer
second.
advisory.
and I'll second that revision.
Yeah, okay.
All right, all those in favor, Barbara,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes,
Dan?
Yep.
All right, 4 yeses. Okay. All right, review and approve. So next up, we have warrants.
And I gave you the updated because we added payroll and BMV from when I did your final.
Okay, you gave us
You-
updated.
here.
Yes, the list, I added 2. I usually have to add them. After.
Where's the list? The one I have,
17 is the last one.
I don't have that on the list.
If yours
I have
isn't,
that.
if yours isn't up,
Here,
do
you want
you,
this one?
Here,
is
thanks.
it in your book
Yeah,
already?
it should be in the book.
Mm,
That's another. one.
No.
Okay, it probably is.
Yeah, if you didn't pick up your binder, then I was able to update it.
Okay, so first up, we have payroll warrant 10 in the amount of $21,420.96.
So move.
Second.
Moved in second, is there any discussion on that one? Yes. So Lorna, this is another one of the weird,
Yes,
total payroll is
Yeah.
17, but the amount is 21,420.
yes, because it's a month, you're doing the monthly payables.
Okay,
Yeah. That's what seems to make that big difference, the end of the month.
okay, so total payroll is not 17,180, total payroll is 21,420.
Taxes, could be taxes, insurance,
There it
retirement,
is.
all of that, yeah.
so the 1 week one up there by Grouse.
All right, so moved and seconded, all those in favor, Dan?
yes.
Carol?
Yes,
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses, we're paying. Warrant number 10, BMV warrant number 11. In the amount of $2,721.67. I make that motion.
second,
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
yes,
Dan?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. Warrant number 12, in the amount of $6,390.30.
I think that included B and B, and then I think there was a check maybe left
There's a
off
single
for
check.
someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I made a motion,
Second,
moved and seconded, is there any discussion? Saying none, Dan,
Yes,
Carol,
yes,
Barbara?
Yes.
Well, 4 yeses. Next, we have payroll warrant number 13 in the amount of. See, now this one's flip-flop, Lorna. So I don't understand.
I know, it makes no sense, does it?
It doesn't,
I
because
know.
total payroll is 18,076, but on the other ones, total payroll is not written the same way. So we gotta figure that out, because,
except because you
I'm not
pay
a
all the
doc-
stuff on one of them, you don't pay them all on the other.
no, that's,
At the end of the month, it's usually larger because you're paying.
right.
Paying us,
Yeah.
taxes.
Payroll 13,
This is the total payroll.
I'll scan the whole payroll
Payroll warrant.
or whatever. And send that, yes, I'll make a note to add.
This is the actual amount, not this one. This one, this is the actual amount.
Yeah.
Not this one.
Yes.
This one, however, is reversed.
Right.
So that's the confusion, yeah. Because it doesn't make sense, because we're still doing the put into AP and taken out of AP. But then the way that they're presented is flip-flopped.
Well, you're putting in 53 and taking out 96.
Right. So, see how this one is worded? This is the total payroll, this is the actual
Yeah.
number for warrant
But see what
13.
you put in here, you're putting a small amount in and taking out a larger, because it's the end of the month and that's taking out social security and withholding and all of that.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm
Okay.
saying is on this warrant, this payroll warrant, this is the actual amount presented.
Yeah.
On this payroll warrant, the bottom line is not this number is.
Right.
Same deal, put into AP, taken out of AP, see?
Mhm.
This one, same thing. This is the amount, not that. But we're coming across, our line items are the same, so this is the confusion.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think the 164361 is your. That's check, so if you look at page 1, warrant 13, look at the bottom. Each Scoggins savings for that, payroll underneath is your Department of Treasury, underneath is Treasurer State of Maine. And then I'm gonna guess that withholding, is like, the additional is like withholding for, retirement.
It's all your month end stuff.
Right, so it does, what I'm not questioning the numbers, I'm questioning the presentation.
Right. Yeah,
So
I'm not,
we
I'm
have-
not sure why Trio does it that way.
Right, so when we have different payroll warrants. End of the month or not, the totals are, the way you have to read it is they're presented differently.
Yeah.
Remember, this was what I was showing you last time, Luna. So-
Yeah, yeah, I know,
'Cause
because it made no sense to me.
Right, because if we look at payroll 13, the total amount is 18,076.
Yeah.
Which is, that's the only place that's reflected, but if we look on payroll warrant 10,
We've got the 21 at the top and then
Right.
total payroll 17,180.
right, so I understand, you know, that the bigger number is clearly the one that we're paying, however,
why is it on the
There-
line?
right, they're presented different.
Right, but you can see, look on payroll warrant 10, you've got retirement there, 3,000. And then main PERS is also paid 2,800, so I think maybe that affects how that prints out on a payroll warrant that doesn't have those
It's possible.
benefit amounts.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
think that's what it is.
It's just tricky to follow like that, because you really are like jumping to see what is the number.
I agree.
All right, did we final vote on that one? Okay,
No, I don't have a motion or second.
okay, so I'll make a motion with warrant 13 in the amount of $18,076.45.
Second,
Is there any discussion? Saying none. Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
yeah,
Dan?
Yeah.
All right, 4 yeses. All right. BMV warrant number 14 in the amount of 1883. I'll make that motion.
second,
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Saying none. Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
yeah.
Dan?
Yeah.
All right, 4 yeses. All right, then we have warrant number 15. So the total amount of $708,195.97. I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, that is open for discussion.
See the breakdown on that tree.
I do as well. $10,000 is a huge amount, because when I was at the rec center, prior to this, no, they pointed out which trees, they had them marked, which trees needed to come down. And it was like a handful of trees. It was not. And if they're doing, what is it, 150 an hour, we're paying them?
I don't know if they broke it down by hour.
No, but it gives me a description of what they did.
It's just, these are probably tall trees. Are they charging by the tree?
Geez, I don't remember seeing a bucket truck there, but maybe they were.
We paid me than 10 grand.
Can I jump? Is this open
Yes.
to?
Is that you under iPhone?
Yes, that's me. Oh, that's me.
We're like, we threw you out early because we're like, who is this person? Well, never mind if they can't identify themselves.
Did we throw you out, Dan?
I think I tried to sign on my iPad, but I couldn't get on, so I came back on my phone.
It's supposed to be the second person with the iPhone.
Yeah.
So apparently,
Yeah, we need you to put your name on instead of saying iPhone.
Okay,
because when we do the meeting minutes, we put in who the participants are.
okay. I can. Do I have to do that now?
No, now we know it's you. You've identified yourself.
All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, I was a little confused with the technology. The trees that you might have seen marked were actually trees that have brown tail moth.
You
in
know,
them.
these ones that Linda Bacon pointed out to me that these trees were marked, and I think it was actually prior to your coming on.
Oh,
That
those ones.
these were nuisance trees that could be problem trees, and that's why when the former facilities person, all those trees that were cut down at the Center for All Seasons, that's why the Board of Parks and Recreation was upset, because those trees nobody was supposed to touch.
Yeah, so I do recall seeing some flagging when I first got hired on some trees, and I believe that All Seasons gave a quote of around $8,500 sometime in the past few years for the Center for All Seasons. The major tree, they did a lot of limbing on the higher pine trees that sit back behind the playground. Right before, well, I guess that first windstorm that we had, about a 20-foot long branch fell next to the playground. So as soon as that kind of happened, there was a kind of a need to get the work done sooner than later. So the trees that they did work on were mostly like the higher pine trees in the back. They did cut down a few smaller trees that were dying kind of right in front of the beach. And then around the parking lot, they cut down a few, or 3 or 4 hemlocks that were dead, that were leaning towards the parking lot. I can take pictures of it. I do know that they were there for a week. And they and they cleared a lot of dead branches that were over. The main focus was the parking lot and then the area over outside the back of the rec center. That's what I can add. It was more of a safety thing, and we knew that there were dead branches, so.
Okay, it's just a huge chunk of money.
The ones down by the beach, we have our code enforcement officer go down there and sign off on them. Can't just cut trees and throw land zoning.
They
Right,
So we ran
Within
into
so many feet back from the water.
250 feet, yeah.
Right.
250 feet.
Yeah, so it has to be approved by code enforcement, or we could actually be finding ourselves. I don't know how that works, but.
DEP, you could be, DEP could come after the town.
Yeah, I'm good, fine.
there's not anything in there about dead trees. That, I mean, I don't believe they cut any full.
Yeah, there are exceptions.
Yeah, they
Well, there's
just, they
very
have,
few
if they're
exceptions. If
nuisance
you got a dead tree hanging, it's actually out into the water. Most of the time you can't cut it.
Yeah,
It has to rot off and die and go away all by itself.
go into the water and then wait to disappear.
No, they didn't. I mean, when I say down by the wall, I mean the, the playground, like towards the playground. They didn't cut anything on the shoreline for sure. I know that.
Well, it's 250 feet back.
Yeah, so we need to make time, we need to make sure if we're gonna do any more, that we're gonna make sure we check with code enforcement.
Well, and bring
Okay.
it to the board's attention. Honest to God, this is the one thing that drives me nuts, is I don't like to see $10,000 worth of work that was done. We're not noticed of it anywhere, and then we see it on a warrant.
Sure, I can
So,
understand that.
You passed it on to, did you pass it on to someone and the approval was done? Because if they quoted 85 in the last couple of years, other stuff was done in the meantime.
Sure, I guess I gotta do my due diligence on projects like this. I just kind of, when we had the tree branch fall next to the playground, I just told them to come as soon as they could. And I guess it was just a snap judgment call because of safety. So I do everyone has said so far, that I just need to learn how to work through these problems better.
So my first thought on that would have been, big tree came down, hey. Can somebody from facilities maintenance come and help move this tree off? And then we gotta get this figured out. There are these other issues, and just, we hate to be surprised.
So
And
Really still like that should go through facilities maintenance anyway.
probably should have gone through facilities maintenance.
Probably height.
The road commissioner used to be our nuisance tree person, and then we had the tree committee who facilitated with the road commissioner, but I'm not sure whose responsibility nuisance trees fall under anymore.
I know previously, unfortunately, it's been with the town manager.
Is there a course or something?
So where's that, whose budget does that come out of?
Well,
I
it
think
says right
that
here, it came out of recreation.
Didn't
Dinner
it come out of
policies.
reserve or something? I thought I saw.
I just see here, it says capital
Center, capital
project
projects,
recreation.
So I listed that as a rec reserve. I did bring this to my rec board. I asked them for their guidance on it, and they said that it was more or less it was a safety issue. So they agreed with it.
Just for future reference, Dan, we have to agree.
Okay, yeah,
So the
no.
the Board of Parks and Recreation is an advisory board.
Yep.
And then,
But it should come through the town manager, Dan reports to the town manager, not to us.
but then
So-
we need notification when something's going on.
Right.
Sure. I understand that. I understand that now.
No problem, it's a learning thing.
Yeah, no, I sometimes I react and I think this was more of a reactionary thing. And then I just kind of like, I don't know why I should have brought it up, as soon as I got that quote, but I was just, I don't know. I can't really explain it. I understand.
You were trying to err on the side of caution.
Yeah, that's more, I erred on the side of caution and
So
You know,
another
last thing-
document for it, just don't do it again.
I won't, I absolutely, now I know that I understand the order of operations a lot better now. A lot better. And I appreciate your patience. So, yeah, I have some notes from tonight right now.
There's no problem.
I guess my question with this is for all seasons to submit just a blanket bill for $10,000 with very little itemization. I mean, that just seems,
It's kind of hard,
sketchy to me.
it's very hard to itemize trees coming down.
but I mean, the amount of time that they spent on it, or I mean, it would be nice
Does it
to.
have the hours?
No,
No,
nothing.
No, it's
just
just
that-
They were there for a week.
kind of description of, plant these trees, we cut these trees.
Any bills well, you must have to do the same thing, Dan. Any bills that I do, unless I did a quote job, I have to itemize to the town. I have to itemize what I did unless it's a quote job. It's a quote job and then it's a quote. You charge a quote.
Well, if the quote was $8,500, then it's $8,500.
Well, that's 2 years ago, it's probably, that quote isn't effect anymore.
Yeah.
And I know that their quotes are good for 10 days. I know that.
Yeah.
But
No problem. Like I said, if it
I,
happens, go to the town manager, because then the town manager is gonna call the tree service or whoever. And go,
Okay.
get us.
Right.
And
And so this is something that we also have to be careful of, because we don't have a designated tree service provider in town, and the town is paying one particular tree service a lot of money.
okay,
So we do, and that's on us, because we do need to figure out if
A
this
bid
is who,
process or
right, if
something.
this is who we're gonna use, if they're gonna be like the town plumber and the town electrician, and this is who we contact every time.
Do it.
RFP, give
So
us,
that
give us an
we-
hourly rate, what you're gonna
Yeah.
charge an hour.
Yeah.
And,
Do that.
and then we can decide, but
We probably should put that in list to put out an RFP, because there are a lot of trees coming down. And there will be more as we have these all the stuff happening.
Right,
well,
Yeah.
but I thought,
to get a blanket bill for $10,000.
And what I'll do next time, I mean, in the future, when I see this problem, like Barbara said, or like Carol said, this is gonna happen in the future, and I'm anticipating that we're gonna have to do tree work at both all the parks on Long Pond, definitely.
Mhm.
They like I know that there's regulations, but those trees, there has to be some limbing done, especially where how much recreation the park at Long Pond and the park on Lakeshore Drive see in the summer. So if we do, yeah, I agree. We should try to find a tree service to give us quotes, and then probably get different quotes from different people for that.
And Hans should look at all
Oh, yeah,
those
anything,
trees.
anything with shoreline zoning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
All
Hans
right.
definitely
pretty
on
much
the park.
everything you're in control of.
okay. I'll send everything up the chain to Hans, and then I'll CC Lauren on any of these decisions in the future as well.
Or vice
Okay.
versa, might want to send it to Warner first.
Yeah, I would.
And then
Okay.
she can send on solo.
All right.
Okay,
Right. And then somebody notices the board.
Okay,
All
right.
We don't want everybody not noticing us.
Right. All right, we exhausted that one.
moving on.
Dan's like, I'm just gonna hide now.
I
You know,
I
it-
appreciate your time, and I really am, that I do take notes on things like this, and I think that I got a lot of good advice tonight.
Thank you, Dan.
Little snafus is what it is. I just was like, 10 grand?
Yeah.
This, And I actually thought when I first saw All Seasons that they had gone around and done the limb pickup around town from after the last storm and when things were cut and just left there. I figured that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
But- And I was like, well, what is this? All right, well, we're done beating you up, Dan.
All right.
Okay, under page 2, Big Tex Trailer World. We paid $339.99 for plow controls. What exactly is that?
Probably the joystick.
Yeah, but there was a
Fish stick.
fish stick.
Comes with a plow. You either
Probably
get a
has.
joystick or you get a fish stick, and we should not be paying $339.
I had a bad one.
Probably, yeah, if our one died. Had that happen before when I was along.
Your old phone, they don't hold up.
Smart Touch 2 V Plow control only.
Yeah, it's a fish stick. Well, a fisher calls it a fish stick, but I think that's what Boss calls it is.
Right,
So I must have needed a new one, obviously to replace.
okay. I hope so, because if we're paying extra for it, that's enough.
That's,
And it
that's,
should be warranted, it should be warranted the same as the plow. And the V plows have a 2-year warranty, not a 2-season, a 2-year.
yeah, but it could be on the other.
Yeah, you say that'd be
You got
fish.
two plows.
Yeah, so see, and that's the other thing too, is Nick was supposed to, I thought, be getting us a little bit more clarification in these where is this skidder number 1 or skid steer number 1 or skid steer number 2? Is this, we need a little more detail in there because we shouldn't be guessing which plow it was for. Or which,
I have a suggestion in Buckfield when I was treasurer. My public works guy, Weldon, when I first started, he gave me an equipment sheet, listed all like the dump trucks, the trucks, whatever, excavator, had everything, mowers. And they were just all assigned a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when he submitted invoices to me, he would put number 10,
Yep.
number 5.
right,
And so I had my list, and then I would include that in the detail on the warrant.
well, and I think we asked Corey, I thought, to compile a list like that so that we could, because we shouldn't, I mean, our job is to sign off on this, and if we're not sure what we're signing off on, then we're not being given the right
I
information.
think that would probably work here as well.
Well, that years ago, last time I was on the select board before I got done. I had asked us to start using purchase orders,
It used to.
because that way. You would get a purchase order with the bill and it would have a description, had to replace broken control, you know, and I really think we need to start doing that. It gives us better record.
We used to have purchase orders.
Right,
You know, at least it gives you a
I think-
description of what's going
I
on.
think Pam was the last one that did it, though. We used to have to call her a good purchase order number.
Yeah, well, I don't even care if we have to call you, I don't want to call it, just get a purchase order book, those Staples give them a book, just orders. If you're buying something, you make out a little piece of paper. Attach it to your slip when you turn it in, it says, you know, this is for plow number 2. And control went that. You know, or at least it tells us what
I
happened.
mean, I like Lorna's idea that every truck and every piece of equipment has a number on it.
Yeah, it should.
Because then you can go back in Trio and run that department and you can pick out you can do it by equipment. You
Yeah.
can see that really easily,
That way it makes.
what
it easier.
you spent
Track.
on
Yep,
each.
Right, track.
Well, you
all
can
this kind of
Excel
equipment,
spreadsheet, and then you can
vehicle,
also-
kind of Get rid of them.
right.
I just, it's really easy. It's
When
easy.
they were purchased.
It was easy for Public Works to do that. Weldon just
Yeah, I
said
was
for
just gonna say
15 or whatever.
The city of Augusta was the same thing.
Yeah. So we'll look at implementing that.
Yeah.
I'll talk to Nick and Corey.
Yeah,
Well,
so
I
you-
was glad they had the explanation on here under the Dalton, I don't like the explanation.
Oh, the heater. There are actually 2
Two
heaters.
heaters in there.
And
Yeah, they
why?
found another
They've
one.
been there since forever. There's one underneath the sink, which I didn't even know about. Corey found that one.
So who turned it on?
It's probably the tenant that was there before.
When we were there this summer, there was no I mean, we looked on those things and I don't remember seeing a heater under any of them.
It's a kick space heater, so it looks like a baseboard kick space heater.
Yeah,
It's electric, it's not hot water, it's an electric one.
so why wouldn't it be attached to the baseboard hot water system?
Just never has been. I didn't even know it existed.
Well, we don't like that heater.
There's one in the
You know,
back.
because now this is $800 and something we've spent in the last 2 months on a building that nobody's in.
And there's
Last
one in
month
the
it was
bathroom.
510, I think, and this month it's 310.
Yeah, and there's one in the bathroom.
So,
They have been turned down now.
Yes, they have.
Temperature.
Once he found it, found the thermostat.
Right.
okay. So this is where under Wayne French on page 4, so we only paid $19.50 for the person who was trucking the woody brush for public works.
Who was the vendor?
Wayne French. So and I don't want to assume, because we don't know. But if that was the roadside cleanup of the stuff that was left, that was trimmed after the last. Not the recent cold snap, the prior storm.
January 3, January 4, January 11. So you have a total of 13 hours at $150 an hour, trucking wood and brush off the Horse Point Road.
I went to the transfer station.
What's that?
I said, and then all that stuff went to the transfer station. I do remember seeing that truck going in with brush and stuff.
Is there anything from Jason on that?
That's all I have.
Because, I mean, this is another one of those, if we're paying to rent a bunch of equipment for the road commissioner, why are we paying someone $150 an hour
It's
to
full.
move the stuff to the transfer station so we can then pay to dispose of it?
No, well, brush don't cost the same to get rid
It
of.
must have been pulp truck.
That's a pulp truck. But I do know the wood that I discussed, I can't remember if it was the last board meeting and board meeting before that, the wood was being hauled off by the road commissioner in a separate vehicle.
And where was that going?
I don't know, ask that question.
Can you find out where the wood went?
What
Please.
road?
That was on McGraw Pond Road, I saw that. You should imagine, you probably got invoice for, excavator and truck and trailer for the McGraw Pond Road.
Do you know us, time frame, Bruce?
I
Like
know it's January, so,
early, middle?
yeah. I know, I think it was on last warrant, the bill was, that's why I questioned it last warrant, where it was going, where especially, where we got. Everything for fuel assistance is so high.
So,
And
yeah,
that was from Jason, that was from Jason.
I think so, yeah, because his crew that was
11,000.
on the
And
road.
there's a
down
one
McGraw.
ton for 16, a mini excavator for 16 hours, a chainsaw for 16, a 1 ton for 13, a chainsaw for 16, a mini excavator for 50.
Yeah, but it'd be on that bill, it'd be whatever that was done, is when that would.
Is there a breakdown under Jason's bill on which roads these were done on? Because it's something, I mean, that's also stuff we need to know. It says. Okay, tree work, storm debris. So tree work, storm debris was 2333. And then tree work on the Horse Point Road. 2250. Then we have just dead trees. I'm not sure where those are from. And then we have tree work on McGraw Pond was 3285. $11,000. Yeah.
1 ton. Tree work. December, 1 ton chainsaw and pickup. Gives the hours, tree work, Bartlett Road, tree work, Penny Road, cleanup storm debris. This is January 1, mini excavator, a 1-ton and chainsaw tree work, Horse Point Road. 1-ton chainsaw, mini excavator, tree work, Horse Point Road, remove live trees and brush, etc. Early January, and then mid-January, 1-ton mini X and chainsaw tree work, McGrath Pond Road. 3285.76, and it looks like you got 3. Monday and Tuesday, so 8 hours each day, 16 hours each piece of equipment.
At least he breaks it down. I mean, that's,
Yeah,
you know.
But
You know,
yeah, it's better than the tree.
I know, he gives us an itemized bill and how much time and.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
but how many hours each piece of
Right.
equipment
Yeah.
used, et cetera.
Yeah,
Each
that's
job.
how it should be done. That's how
Yeah.
Bill should say. It's like,
Right.
that's how I mine out when I pass them.
All right. So my last question is on the page 9, Treasurer State of Maine, the Center for All Season Water Test is only $25. And my understanding is that Center for All Season has to have 2 tests done.
Yeah, so one is to test to see if they have bacteria. That's a requirement that. I don't know, that's a requirement I'm not familiar with, because that's a requirement that they're required to do because the well had tested twice years and years
I
ago.
remember we had to do shit with bleach.
It doesn't tell me a lot,
Yeah.
it just says,
Just to check. for
test code TG,
Yeah, it's for bacteria,
Okay, so we only have to check
$25.
1 test.
that
Okay.
one, yeah.
So I had a question mark beside it, like 1?
And the safe drinking water, because it's a public facility, it's safe drinking
Oh,
water,
yeah.
has to be done every 6 months,
So is that
because it's considered.
done just on the one that has the system?
Correct.
Okay.
Are we really paying almost $6,000 a year now to be a member of the municipal association?
What? See, that used to be a separate article at town meeting, and I don't understand why that is.
Well, we go to them for some legal advice. Well, if we're now contracting with our attorney. I'm gonna have a contract. We really need to spend another $6,000 a year from paying this.
Well, I don't know, because I'm asking under the update that they're looking for, I would like to see a breakdown of the 54 hours. So they're saying 54 hours now, instead of the 1,100 that they quoted, now they're looking for 1,250 a month, and they're saying we've exceeded essentially what we should be using. So I would like to request that we have a breakdown from Bernstein Shore to see.
And that's fine, it's just, I don't think necessarily, if we're gonna contract with one, I don't think we need the other one.
Maine Municipal provides, training, you get manuals, I mean, it's
Yeah.
quite a resource for us.
$1,000, that's the problem I have.
I mean, this town has gone away from the municipal before, I do know that, because the voters have voted it down, so yes, no, no.
And it used to be like 35.
58, 52
Yeah.
annual dues.
You know, I don't have a problem, spending $3,000 or $3,500 to be a member of them, get a manual, a few manuals here and. They do.
You have to
select
pay for
board.
the manuals,
Yeah.
but I download them.
Yeah.
Free.
And, the select board trainings and things like that. $6,000 is a lot of money for a lobbying group. That's what they are, they're a lobbying group.
Well, I've called them from time to time. You call them a lot, right?
I'd call them, when I need guidance, probably not a lot, I feel like twice a year, I'll be like, hey, Sue, it's us again in Belgrade.
But we used to call them all the time because it cost us every time we call our lawyer.
Right.
I'm just,
Now we're contracting a little way, so we're paying that, y'all figuring now another 6,000 for,
So we're paying essentially $500 a month for MMA, and then we're paying, now they're looking for $1,250.
$1,200 a month for
Right,
the lawyer.
so,
I'm just bringing it up because it seems to be getting a little expensive.
and is that a standard? Nora, can you just check with the municipal, that's a standard rate for every municipality? And
Yeah,
I'd
I'll
say-
ask them.
And I'd say there's concerns from the select board.
I said that I, by population?
Right.
How do they determine what the membership rate is?
Do we know how much it was last year, too?
Are they gonna be like, you called 4 times?
Yeah, well, that's just it, you know, we're only calling, if you call twice, and Robert calls 3 or 4 times, and somebody else calls once, you know, if you're calling 10 times a year. And you're just getting a quick response over the phone, is it worth $6,000? It's, I just,
Right. All right, we're gonna break down from them. Anybody else have anything on that, or did we leave it up? No? Do we hit everybody else's 5 points? All
I see we
right,
get some more salt, so I'm not under the contract price, so. It's, keep it up this year, while I see stuff away for next year.
right.
The salt some money away.
All right, so
Okay,
that.
so-
All right, so if there's no further discussion, Barbara,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes,
all right, 4 yeses. All right, next we have payroll warrant number 16 in an amount of $17,292.88. Make that motion. Second. All right, moved and seconded and third. So any discussion? Saying none, Dan,
yes,
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara?
Yeah.
All right, 4 yeses. Next, we have payroll warrant number 17, it's, no, sorry, not payroll, BMV warrant, and the amount of $11,780.87. I'll make that motion. Second. All right, moved and seconded. There's no further discussion. Dan?
yes,
Carol?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. All right, town manager report. That's you.
taking a break.
Oh, Lorna's on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm reading it.
Yeah.
So just a quick rundown, of what has taken place, some of it, since you last met. So we did an updated shoreline map, that was actually, it was actually done 2 years ago, a year ago. But the planning board never reviewed it, approved it, so they asked about it, I went through email, contacted the company, they had already done the changes. Planning board reviewed it, approved it, so now we're getting that updated, so they'll have updated copy, one here for the Atkinson, we get it on the website. You already knew dispatch services are ending in June with Somerset County. Dan's been really good. We've discussed this a couple of times. I've reached out to the state, Shawshock there, to
Yeah.
find out if they would be able to pick up that. I'm sure they,
I had a discussion with Commissioner Stockton the other day, so.
okay. So I don't know anything more from him because they had just found out 48 hours before I called him on the phone. And they, I'm sure we'll try to figure something out. It'll probably be more expensive. I think that's why we went with Somerset in the first place. I know some folks are thinking maybe Somerset could be contracted through the end of the year. But Dan didn't think that would happen, Dan McKenzie. So no real answers or solutions there yet. But Dan has been super, keeping me.
Yeah, so the tricky part of that is gonna be whether we need to budget in 2023.
Right, we have no idea.
I think you're gonna go to the voters in June, but
Yeah.
like Waterville Calm is trying to get it a piece at, so.
Yeah, they can get certified.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The state right now, they're scrambling because they don't have the personnel either. I think Augusta is being dispatched out of Holton right now.
Legal services for 2023, as you know, Phil originally gave us a request for 1,100 a month, but then changed that to 1,250. He did call me the other day to find out if you had approved that amount. And I told him that, look, we've already done the budget and no, the board hasn't met, they meet Tuesday night. So he did indicate that if you wanted to go somewhere in between, he would probably be fine with that. He has not sent the January bill because he is waiting to know what you all decide.
Between
told him to hold
1,000
up.
and 1,200?
I think 11, between the 11 and the 1250.
So another
I
160
know.
a month.
So
I mean, I think if you told him
we did pay-
1100,
On this warrant, we paid 1,000.
that was, yeah, but
December.
that, we don't have the January bill yet.
Okay, so that was December's.
Yeah.
So my bounce back to that is that I would like a breakdown of the 54 hours. And what they were, is it, are we figuring a phone call is 5 minutes, but we're using an hour? So I'd like to see how we spent that.
Now, the dealing with the state and stuff on the, public water system, was that part of that, or was that
Separate charge.
separate? Yeah, I think that was one question.
Hopefully that'll slack off a little.
So the audit is nearly complete. They sent over a draft today. There's nothing final. They're still waiting on a few additional things, but that's, I think they're waiting for something from Camden. They had a couple of other questions for the office, so that should be forthcoming. You already know moderator for town meeting will be Paul Mills. Spirit of America nomination has went out to the public. We are holding a candidate forum March 1 for select board and school board. We are waiting on a couple of outlets and detectors for 8 Dalton. And then I believe it should be ready to rent. We're continuing to reach out to contacts, I should have said, for the winter maintenance contract.
So, and who are we reaching out to for that?
I have a whole list. Anytime somebody mentions a name to me, I add them to my spreadsheet and try to find them.
Can you update us on who you're talking to so that we've all got, so we're not talking to the same people or?
I guess I don't have Wi-Fi here. I do. Do I?
Yeah, nothing has to be popped over now. I just have one note on there like.
Okay, yeah, so I'll email out who I contacted, and I keep a record of if they've been contacted by email, in person, or phone, and what their response was, if they responded.
So
What
are you talking to people who would be just individual plow people and you
No.
would put together a team, or you're talking to people who
No.
would do the whole job?
Contractors.
Okay. who would
Yeah,
do the
like
whole
I
job.
contacted Pikes, McGee's. I spoke with Kevin Hawes on the phone. I mean, there's several people that I've reached out to.
Okay.
Communications committee is working on the spring newsletter, so anybody who's been approached for their piece in that's due Monday. Candidates should reach out to Regina as soon as possible to get her the information she needs for the candidate forum and let her know if they're going to attend. I'm reviewing the risk management and safety training that's coming right up, all of our annual stuff. Rec Director Dan and I met with MMA about implementing a wellness program through MMA for employees. It's no cost to us. There's 2 benefits. One is that it promotes health and healthy living and lifestyle for employees. But it also is part of the tier 3 program. They have tier 1, 2, and 3. We're at tier 2. Getting to tier 3 should help lower costs for
Lower
the
cost.
town. So you're helping employees become more healthy and saving the town money. So Dan and I actually have a second meeting tomorrow morning. I just got all of the booklets in the mail this week. The county LD1 tax form was submitted. We did have the oil spill on Castle Island, which was the fish oil and not bad oil.
I still, I mean, this is up to Dan, but I feel that the private board of select persons probably ought to build that construction company. who probably down Mount Vernon, Fairfax would too. They should have notified somebody that they had a spill.
Well, DOT should have notified if they knew on Thursday and they,
I don't think DOT didn't even know about it. The construction company notified Zippo.
well, someone had
DOT
called
knew that it
DOT.
happened Thursday. They told
That's
me.
what, and I say that, well, that isn't what the supervisor told us. They had no notice of it. They had no clue.
I talked to
Tony.
Tony Bullia.
Yeah, I'm not sure who we talked to on scene, but
Well, and I talked to Laura about this. My feeling on it is we need to find out what we paid for the response for rescue and find out what Mount Vernon paid or have, I mean, that's their battle. But that should be, we should put the state on notice that,
I
because
mean,
they did not contact us. And then the other, just, you know, the side issue is that we should be notified, and then if somebody needs to notify Lorna. So that,
I mean, it'd been an easy fix. All they had to do was move a piece of equipment till they fixed it.
all you had to do was tell us and then tell us that it was omega-3 fish oil that was on the lake.
Yeah, but I mean, you had people out on the lake fishing and all
Oh,
that
yeah,
stuff. All that
absolutely.
stuff was blowing up on the ice.
Yeah.
So you had a nice big thick film on the ice and, you know, people that,
Oh, absolutely. We should have known.
you know. it
I mean,
just-
that's just unacceptable to me.
So
So,
I want to back up one to the bit before that. So what LD1 tax property growth form was submitted and who was it submitted to? Was it the one that we still have questions from tonight?
No, this is a separate form that the county requires. They ask for it every year. And so I pulled the figures from our budget from our LD1. I think I had Rob review it before I sent it as well. Just to be sure.
Can we see what was said?
It's in your packet.
Oh, that's this one. Okay. I get with the LDs, we get a couple of the things where there's like like essentially low income housing or something is also, that's another LD. So I want to be sure I'm clear on which LDs we're doing.
It'll be different elements. We also put another on here that's actually legislative document,
Right.
which is.
So I'm like,
Use the legislation that's going on.
It is in the back of your, behind my, report.
in her report, there's
I
a whole bunch of
included that,
documentation.
so you can see that.
this right here. Yes, so this is why I flagged it, because I was like, what is this? And if we, I don't know,
Has to do
I tried to
with new
flag
construction.
on my.
New construction.
So I pulled the figures from what Rob had provided.
That's why I was like, I don't know what all these things are, so I'm trying to flag my things, because the other thing too is it's incredibly hard to figure out where the next thing is, so I was working on my system tonight, I'm like, sticky notes.
I'm researching solar application fees, for the planning board. They asked, me to do that for them. I met, Hans and I both met with Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. 3 people actually came. Crystal, who's assistant, she's pretty high up, IFW. There was another older gentleman with her, but I don't know who he works for, obviously the state. And Chris McKee, who used to be a game warden, but he's like a liaison liaison. I've met him before.
Talked to Crystal the day before she came up here.
Yeah, she's really nice, very smart.
She had a chance to talk to Mary. She contacted me to
Yeah.
talk about the
When we got
legislation.
done, she was gonna
Yeah.
talk with her. So no real solutions there yet. Super good discussion. In fact, I think our meeting went like 2 hours. But a lot of what we had, they didn't have answers for, or didn't know how to answer. So we left it that Crystal was going to get a list of contacts, for specific pieces, to us, Hans and I, to reach out, because it's kind of interesting, which you don't really think about. Maybe, you look at water, so there's, someone specific for what's in the water, there's somebody specific for the water, there's somebody specific for the ground under the water. I mean, it's like all these different departments, and so not one size fits all. You have a question, and so you have to kind of stand back and say, okay, what are the pieces and what department addresses each?
Are we swimming or fishing?
It's a, right, it's not a catch-all.
It's more ordinances.
So that is an ongoing thing. And then I also met with a resident on HP 135, which I thought was really great. It's that I think it's LD 2003. It's the bill that will take effect, I believe, July 1 or middle of July. That wants us to allow multiple structures and homes on one piece of property to solve a housing crisis. And this new bill proposed would remove that from municipalities with a resident population of 10,000 or less, or under 10,000, which would be super. for
Oh, so
us.
is that what this is doing, is
Yes,
putting a bar
amending,
in, so, it's-
yes,
okay. I
yes,
started reading through it, and my eyes were
yeah,
crossing.
which is great. That would be so helpful,
Mhm.
I think. So they did ask if I would be interested in testifying you as well, Dan. And I have no idea when the hearings and all of that are, so. But I wanted, that was the first I had heard about it. So I was happy they brought it to my attention, and I included the original bill, law and the proposed amendment,
Amendment.
so you could see both of those.
And is that an issue that we've come up against?
Well, it's
In town?
new, so nobody knows how to deal with it, or how it applies, or how we should address it. It's like super new and nobody's figured that out.
It's very great, it's a very
Yeah.
great.
It's
It's
really
really
gonna,
crazy.
basically, if you've got ordinances that don't allow a 4-unit housing on a piece of property that's undersized or whatever, this state law will supersede it, and they
You
can,
don't have to allow it.
you can build a 4-unit apartment on a quarter-acre lot. And it's not a good
No,
law,
it's not.
both for
I was gonna say, I knew
It
last session.
slept
it wasn't-
through without too many people knowing, I think.
well, it went through, but it was gonna go through anyway.
I'm also working on reformatting the commercial development review ordinance. It's an old Word document, and it's been revised many times by many people. So the formatting is like, you touch one thing and it messes up the whole document. Yeah. So that's been a pet peeve of, I know George has picked up on it. So I told him that I would work on it, and I'm also going to get our new planning board secretary involved, so we can tag team and create a new document, so it's much better to work with going forward. I also met with Dan, our rec director, about the upcoming summer music program. Spoke with Fire Chief Dan about a dry hydrant in the village. We're gonna meet again to discuss that further. Myself, Mary,
What's going on with the remember?
Oh, and I think we talked about putting one down where we had the structure by us.
Oh, down and back.
He said he didn't think it would ever come to fruition because of cost, but we're gonna chat about it and see. He's
And
just
where
gonna
would-
get me.
where
up
would
to
it be
speed.
put?
He didn't say, down in the village.
Down behind the boat storage.
Yeah, that's what we talked about. But
Oh, down there, yeah, okay. That became a problem last year, right?
Nick, Mary, and I are doing training Thursday. This has to do with LD 290, which is the senior tax stabilization law. And much of it will discuss, briefly the law, but, Trio will be on this Zoom training because Trio will be making some changes to the software to handle this.
There's also an LD going through right now that when it comes up, if I can find it. They're proposing to not have to do whatever that. Thing is.
Every
Yeah.
year.
So that might be
Okay.
something that you might be
Okay,
interested
yeah,
in.
that's interesting. I spoke with Carl, RSU 18 on the school budget, met with our school board rep. Scheduled the Bar Harbor Trust presentation. We were gonna do it this time around, but we had a pretty full agenda, so we're hoping to get them on in October, the next meeting. Mary and I have general assistance training March 14. And then we also received a donation to the heating assistance program in the amount of $50. Last week was crazy. Oh my God, crazy busy. It was like, yeah.
I should note that Barbara and I attended, what did we go to, the
Oh, the NIMS.
NIMS
Yeah.
training, so you can cross us off the list.
You can put us down.
They should send a certificate. Did they give you one?
No,
I'll
and I
ask,
haven't gotten anything.
I'll
What's
ask
the
Barb
NIMS
about it.
Well, it's the one that we're all
It's
supposed to
emergency
take on.
management that
Oh,
all
the-
elected officials are supposed to.
Yeah,
do.
the one that I signed in on and then I got sick. So I had rearranged my work schedule. And then,
Very dry class.
yeah,
It's
At least
like
ours is
fall
out.
asleep. Oh, it's the same.
Oh.
Oh, goodness.
I got
it's
a
terrible.
big one, I gotta go do a
It's
one.
terrible.
Yeah.
This wasn't-
I gotta do
This
that
was
too,
fine,
right?
it was fine.
Does it-
Actually, the guy who did this one was good, and it was pretty good.
you need the app.
I've got, oh, I don't have
You
that.
need the app.
Can you do it with God?
I don't
I
know.
don't think you can.
Yeah.
My wife, Mary's got it on her phone.
Oh, I just started mine twice.
Oh, what she'll do, she'll start it. Damn, I didn't even know how she was doing
We
it.
should only be able to start it twice. We're not supposed to work after that.
No. So that's the thing, is you start it twice and then you have to go out to the vehicle and actually physically. Some guy was complaining about it today and I said, you start your vehicle in your garage? He's like, sometimes. I said, well, I don't want people to die. So that's why I can start it twice. And then at that point.
And they run what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes max? Not a long
Or if
time.
you're in Portland, then they fine you for even starting it that way.
Oh, really?
What's that white
You're not
fluffy
allowed
stuff out there?
Not allowed to.
What's that?
I said, what's that white fluffy stuff
Oh,
out
yeah,
there?
we're supposed to be getting snow.
sleep.
Yeah.
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 Oh, it's storm?
Good.
Yeah, it was supposed to start around 10 o'clock tonight, so yeah.
The Stellar Eagle is back?
Yes,
Oh, I'm gonna go.
well, you just
I
wait,
did a photo.
you just wait till the sand hill crane show back
I
up.
almost did a real eagle the other day on my way down Belfast. One flew right in front of me, almost came through my windshield.
Oh, my
Great
goodness.
big bald eagle.
Well, if
That's
you guys
cool.
remember, I think it was 2019 or 2020, that's been 2019. The morning of town meeting, I had a pair of eagles on my front lawn. And it was the craziest thing because luckily Don Mears was there. I'll look it out of this meeting. Is there anything else that we'd like to discuss this evening? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all right, moved and seconded. All those in favor? Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara.
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. So yes, so anyhow, for that town meeting, I happen to be leaving early because I had called in a couple pizzas to Christie's to bring to their bakes. So I'm heading out the door and I'm like, what is that? And I had this huge snowbank, of course, and I can see something on the other side of it.